Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday Night Forum. It's going to be soon the Champions League Forum next season. And exciting times ahead. We have just beaten Man City to the signature of Declan Rice. When we put 105 million on the table. Done deal, Tony. All but the final details, Tony. You're shaking your head. Go ahead, Tony.
Too much.
Too much money. Okay. I mean, that is the going rate for a midfielder now in England, right? So I think we'll all agree.
Buy him somewhere else then.
I think we can all agree the price is too much.
I do.
West Ham.
Italy has good defense. Go buy some players from there.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I prefer to get
Germany.
Premier League proven player, a player we know about, and a player who can help us, and we have need for that player in midfield. So
how many players do we need though?
We're not here really to argue about who we need, what we need. We're here to talk about a record signing for Arsenal. We've been doing this thing for years and years and years, and look at the players we've been talking about, Tony. Colonel Mustard, Socrates, Cedric. These are the players we've been talking about. Lichtsteiner. War is over, Stan. Come on home. And we need to tell this fan base, yes, expectations will raise now, Stan, because of this Declan Rice British record transfer fee, right? It's okay to have expectations rise now, because what were we doing 3 or 4 years ago? We were talking about Colonel Mustard, Socrates, Lichtsteiner. Stan?
Yeah, back then we were kind of shopping at your local Lidl's for our weekly groceries, whereas now we're just like strolling into Havertz and buying up whatever we want. The caviar, the big Magnum bottles of champagne. It's a totally different world. But I mean, let's have a look at where we are at the moment then. So as far as we know, Manchester City has now dropped out of the race for Declan Rice. It seems that we've got a clear run at the player. It seems as if our bid has been accepted, and they're just discussing with themselves, as I hear, to just work out how it's going to be paid over what period and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So it sounds like they're just crossing T's and dotting I's. But I kind of agree a little bit with what Tony's saying. It's a lot of money, isn't it? I mean, but then again, I suppose it's the market that dictates what the rates are. I mean, had we been in the market for Jude Bellingham, we would have paid maybe 130 million, 140 million, depending on what it is from euros into pounds. So, these are basically what the market rates are. My personal opinion, yeah, it does seem like a lot of money, and that I think we probably have paid an overinflated price. But my wish to get this deal over the line was more about the precedent that it sets. As a fan base, we've seen too many of what we were told our number one targets just slip through our fingers for various reasons. Rafinha going off to Barcelona because that's where he wanted to play. Lisandro Martinez decided to go to Manchester United because he has a relationship with the manager there. Vlahovic not wanting to leave Italy. The Mudryk situation where it seemed that was a nailed-on deal and we were the only destination that the player wanted to come to, but he goes to Chelsea. The same with trying to get João Felix on loan, missing out on Caicedo. So there's been, I can understand the anxiety in the fan base over the past couple of weeks since the window's opened to see us talk about who our number one target is and then get it nailed down. And I suppose, it was very nervy, wasn't it, when we were putting in a couple of bids here and there and they were being, rejected out of hand. And then out of nowhere, like a Randy Orton RKO off the top rope, Man City just steaming and slapped down a big pile of money. They're saying that we've put in but a better option. And you've got to hand it to West Ham a little bit, I mean, for the selling club, they made sure that they were going to maximise every penny out of this sale. Yeah. And it looks like now that we've got our man. But I just want to round off by saying, for me, we had to set a precedent that we could now our number one target. And I think this is a big statement. It shows other football players in the future when transfers are being talked about. Well, Arsenal are able to attract big quality players, even though Man City, who have just won the treble, can speak to them. Mikel Arteta is obviously saying the right words in their ear. And that's going to give other footballers, a second thought of where they want to go. They'll probably make the time now to sit down with Mikel Arteta if we want to go for a player, so they can listen to what he's had to say. We're contenders now.
Yeah,
we are big contenders now.
We contended on the field last season in the league, and now we are contending against the best team in the land that just did the treble. It's only fair to go back to Tony. Alonso, I'll get to you in a second, but for Tony to come back in and reply to all of that.
To me, it's still about you need so many players, and you just spend $100 million on one, spend $70 million on another, $40 million on our center back, so we're already at £210 million.
Yep.
No, it's great, isn't it, Tony?
We'll keep buying them.
I mean, we've been looking in the last 4 or 5 years at Manchester City and Liverpool and Man United doing this, dropping a lot of money on players who are not very good in the end.
I would love to see Tony's reaction on a Christmas morning when he comes into the front room and he sees all of those players under his tree. He's probably going to go, nah.
I wanted 12 presents, not 2 good ones.
I just wanted a Lego set. What's all this?
Yeah,
Tony, these are our new toys.
And Tony, it's not your money. It's not your money. The club has themed it, and Mikel Arteta has targeted this player. And as Stan said, it's kind of like a number one target that we've gone after. We've landed our number one target, Tony.
So it'll be our number one target.
What?
Should City be our number one target?
You complain when we missed our number one target. Then when we get our number one target, you ask, should he be our number one target? He is our number one target.
I have a point to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have one striker, Eddie Nketiah.
We're going to get to that a little bit later in the program, so I have some. We will definitely touch on that one, Tony. Just about to go to Alonso.
He's had enough.
What about her? Another Chelsea reject we bought.
Yeah, Havertz.
That seemed like way too much money.
Yeah, listen. I think you will agree. Stan and I will agree with you, and a lot of Arsenal fans will agree with you. Is Declan Rice worth 105 million?
Probably not.
It seems like a lot of money. I thought it'd be 80 or 90 million for sure. But that is the going rate. Is Havertz worth 65 million? Probably not. And this will be a project that Mikel Arteta will probably get some heat for throughout the season as Havertz doesn't hit, 10 goals and 10
you could probably
assists.
even go as far as to say, is Yuri and Timber worth £45 million?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But the markets are dictating the going rate.
Yeah, exactly, Stan. Exactly. So we're kind of here to revel in us being part of. We're reading at the top table now, Tony. Don't you want to be part of this? And don't you want to be part of winning, potentially challenging? And yes, the pressure will be there to win things now this season.
Are you telling me we're big dick swingers now?
Yeah, there we go.
They are swinging, Tony.
They're like flapping it everywhere. Except when you brush your teeth.
Tony doesn't want to sit.
When you're naked.
Tony doesn't want to.
Naked, and it just keeps going back and forth.
We're going to get into the comments in a section, but I would be remiss of me if I didn't get to Alonso.
I was going to say, Tony doesn't want to sit. Tony doesn't want to sit and dine at the top table where all the caviar is. He wants to be out in the back shed eating out of a tin of Spam, quietly on his own.
I want to be in the middle
with the cheap plunk, right? Yeah. Hey, but Alonso, what's your thoughts on this? 105 million, Declan Rice. Look, the price is the price. Okay, take it away.
I mean, it is what it is. We're getting a good player. We're getting the English cap. We're getting West Ham's captain, and of course it's gonna be expensive. Who wants to pick their best player? And I like the deal. I think that we're gonna have to pay West Ham a lump sum, but he's a good player. I like Declan Rice. I think that he is a world class player. I think now the ambition of the Cronkies have shown in the past couple of years that if this team's gonna be good, we're gonna have to spend money. That's just as simple as that. We're not gonna spend money on what they think will be crap players. We've had that for so long, and it's time that Arsenal has been on the level as a city and the Liverpool United, because we're a top team still. We're a top side, and I think that at the owners believe in Arteta. I think Arteta believes in the owners, and I think that the Cronkies are finally seeing that it takes money to spend. Not only that, but guts also. I think the fans uh, wanted to see some guts out of Cronkies to see if they're going to spend money to be competitive, because this now is a competitive league, and in order for us to be competitive, we're going to have to spend money. And also, our scouting department has shown that they could still sign players that aren't as well known. But I think, in the grand scheme of things, signing a guy like Timber shows that he's also defensive player too. So it's not all Declan Rice. It's Havertz. It's Timber. Guys that have potential to make Arsenal better. And I think in the long run, it's going to work out.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the long run, it is going to work out as well. Let's get into the comments here a little bit. Craig is a little bit of comments before we even came on here. So good activity. And the way you saw Stan laying back like that with his hands behind his head, that's the way we're conducting our transfer business this summer. We have a little bit of stress. We had a little bit of stress, but in 2 weeks, we've almost got 3 signings.
Do you know what I think it was? I think with most of the fan base, it was anxiety about what was happening.
Yeah.
We were
up against City.
We were worried, yeah. The anxiety would have been that we got gazumped by City. They snuck in with a better bid. We're back at the table again, looking at plan B, and then everybody's laughing and bantering us, saying, "No, look at Arsenal getting gazumped. They're stupid." Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Craig said Rice is the only one who was proven and immediately will improve us. The others have potential, but potential is meaningless until it's reached, and that could take time. We need more top-level players now. And to get these players to a preseason as well, we saw the value of a good preseason last summer as well. Get your business done early. A lot of other clubs around the league have not done this. They haven't got players in yet, and we're at the point of where we have 3 in, and the window is 15 days old. It opened up on the 14th of June. Here we are, 29th of June. And by next week, Timber will be a done deal, and Rice and Havertz. Arteta spent close to 700, should be winning the league minimum. He's had it easy too long now. Yeah, if you need to spend to win in this league. And yes,
can I say something? Is there anything to those people that are out there that are perhaps since Mikel Arteta has been appointed and they do, that whole setup has been there, and perhaps those people out there that have been doubting them, are they the right people to take Arsenal forward? Is Arteta the right kind of manager? Is he too inexperienced? Has Adu got enough experience? Is he too busy down the pub or on a barbecue when he should be doing those of you out there that have had those doubts about the setup? What is it going to take? Also as well, that have also criticised the owners as well. The owners should be gone. What is it going to take for you to turn around and say, you know what? I think the club is actually being run quite well. What does Arteta have to do? What does Adu have to do? What do the owners have to do? Because if by now, if you're at this stage now, and you're seeing the moves that we've been making, and the performance of last season, if you're unhappy, then I'm not sure what is going to make you happy. like finding like the Ark of the Covenant somewhere. I mean, what is it going to take? You have to at some point say the club is being run responsibly. The owners seem to be backing the manager. The manager and the sporting director are working hard when they identify their targets. I mean, to me, you saw the conversation I had yesterday with someone online, didn't you, Ray? Because you made a point.
Usman's been on a couple of times with us.
You wanted to name names, fair enough, but
it's all good.
Basically, I just felt that he was being stubborn. The attitude was just it's a dogged determination to not change your mind, even though the information that's being presented to you is favourable.
Yeah, and Usman wanted to move out some of the personnel in the back room, probably namely Edu, if I was to put names in his mouth. You know what I mean? But Edu,
and again, I respect people's opinions, and you're free to support the club. I'm not one of those people that's going to try and tell you how to support Arsenal. You're free to support the club any way that you want to. But I'm just curious to understand, what is it going to take? It's like I put a tweet out yesterday, didn't I? The tweet, and I'd like to read this one out actually, because I don't want to paraphrase, if I may.
Sure. I mean, I'll just read while you're finding that, right? Stefan said Rice is a great acquisition and stopping City just stockpiling players. That's something we're going to talk about. What was City's motivations, Stan?
So I put out yesterday, to those that wanted our owners out for not backing the manager, and to those that wanted Mikel and Edu gone for incompetence in the transfer window, this civil war is now over. Lay down your slings and arrows and come home. We have a league to win next season. Because I just believe that if in numbers, we're stronger. And it does feel like sometimes that within the Arsenal fan base, it's like a civil war is happening. The North versus the South kind of thing. At some point, it's going to have to end, because we all at the same time want the same thing. We all want Arsenal to be successful.
Yeah, and look, a few years ago when we were running this channel, we weren't playing well. We were getting mixed results, and we're having much more. The
Arteta outs are coming for me.
We were having much more detailed conversations about what needs to happen at Arsenal, as winning does heal a lot of things. But there's always going to be a certain percentage.
Boy, you really did it.
There's always going to be a certain percentage who's always going to want the weakest link out, and they see Edu as the weakest link. Some of them see Mikel Arteta and his game management as a weak link. I'll fully and freely admit it. It's something he needs to improve on for me next season. And having all of these players at his disposal, we can't scorch the earth for 9 months and then fail going into April and May. This is something that Mikel Arteta has done for the last 2 seasons. And we need to, Tony, use these pieces, these players, and rotate them properly and responsibly to get somebody like Thomas Partey, if he stays at the club till the end of the season.
He's not going to stay.
He's not going to stay. You think he's moving on, huh? Yep. But listen, this is a good day. This week has been a good week. We had that momentary Ornstein bomb where Man City came in and matched our overall value with slightly different terms. And there was a sense of Man City trying to take a player just for taking a player, just to make us weak, Tony, by trying to turn Declan Rice's head. But this has been a deal that has been going on for probably 6-7 months. I think before the World Cup, I think Declan Rice, has been mentioned, has been in contact with Arsenal over this move. And I'll go further as well, Tony. That's to you, Tony. Mikel Arteta has been key in convincing the player to come.
Tony, you there?
Doesn't mean it's the right player.
Doesn't mean it's the right player. We know, Tony. We know you. You're stubborn and set in your ways. Amazing how, like Stan says, Arsenal are now buying at the top table. About time, Stan. Listen, we've sat by and watched City Liverpool, Chelsea win things, and this has got to be now a time where we come into 4, 5, 6 years of sustained success where we have opportunities to be in finals and to possibly win a league or two as well at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, I mean, Declan Rice sat down and apparently has had a conversation with the genius of football, that is Pep Guardiola. He's just come off the back of winning the treble, winning, I think, 5 out of the last 6 leagues. And then he sat down and spoke to the novice, the inexperienced manager, that is Mikel Arteta, and listened to what he had to say. And he was sold on the plan at Arsenal. I think that speaks volumes. He could have gone to Man City, been on quite nice wages up there as well, nice salary. But whatever, he listened to what the plan was at Arsenal, and that's what he was sold on it.
So I kind of like this.
You got to take a hat off to Mikel Arteta for being able to do that, to being able to convince the player and leave the player in a place where he would turn down Man City.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty easy though. He's promising more minutes than he'd ever get at City.
Tony, there are things that he would have got at City, maybe more guaranteed than he would have got at Arsenal. Namely, could possibly success, winning trophies, because over the span of 5 years, maybe City are going to win more things than Arsenal. But he's come to Arsenal because he sees a defined position for him and maybe a vision for the future.
You don't think he came for more minutes, guaranteed minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. Came for more minutes as well. Nothing wrong with what West Ham did, says Reddy. The onus was always upon us to get it over the line. Yeah, we're not blaming West Ham. In fact, I blame teams like Man United who bought Harry Maguire for a high price, Anthony for a high price, Grealish, Darwin, and Haaland as well. Rule said ridiculous money for a player who I think is not in the same class as Partey. It also tells the whole world we have money now, so overcharge them. Exactly. And it also what's out there is West Ham. West Ham are going to try to offload 100 million or a large part of it in trying to upgrade their team. And we've seen Fulham put a hefty price tag on Paulinho. So it's not going to be. People know you have money. It's not going to be easy to spend it. Arsenal should be able to attract such players simply as a London club. And Alonso, the timing for Declan Rice, if we had not been in this position where we basically stripped the club down to its bare bones and started over, got rid of some of our experienced players, high earners, and got into a position where we could go after Declan Rice for 100 million, he would have probably gone to Chelsea if Chelsea had been in a healthy position and in the Champions League.
Perhaps. At that time, we had our own mess to deal with as well, so we didn't seem that attractive to other players, especially then, back when we had our about 8th place finishes and we didn't have European football last year. So, there's you deal with what you have to work with, right? So, you had Lacazette, you had Aubameyang, you had all these characters like Colonel Mustard and Socrates, you had David Luiz. You had players that didn't even belong in Arsenal, like Suarez, like Ceballos. So we've come a long way as far as getting players that are kind of world class, and especially players that we got to develop, like Martinelli, like Saka, like Odegaard. Sorry, we got from Real Madrid on a good deal too. So and then you see players like Milosevic coming up. You've seen players like Tierney become good, even though he came from Celtic. Not all of them have been busts. Like Pepe was a big bust, and it sucks because he then was a world record signing rather. So there's risk versus reward with everything to me. Yes, Rice is expensive, but I think he brings a lot of intangibles that we didn't have before. And I think Party is going to stay, from what I've heard. So we're going to need that
Yes.
rotation. We're going to need that rotation next year. And Tierney's going to stay as well, which I still favor Tierney over Zinchenko. But then last year you brought in Zinchenko and Jesus for leadership and experience winning the league with City. So, all these things accumulate into good signings like Ben White and Ramsdale from 2001, summer 2001.
Yeah, we've been evolving with good acquisitions.
And we've been spending money then too. So, it's not we haven't bought cheap players recently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key word is like we've been spending a lot of money, but then we've been improving too. So, it's gonna be different next year. It's gonna be very, very cool next year to watch.
It's gonna be cool. We're gonna and Tony, I'm coming to you. You had your hands up. It's gonna be cool next season. We're gonna be winning games. There will be that echo chamber that will say, now we spent so much money, we absolutely have to win trophies. That echo chamber is going to be there. Tony?
And right, so
He had something in mind.
I was just thinking about how crazy it is, how much money we've spent on our defense.
Mm-hmm.
Because Alonso was talking about those guys, and it's probably up to about 300 million in the last 4 years. That's insane.
Stan?
I've always felt that towards the second half and near the end of Arsene Wenger's reign and going into Emery's reign, our team has always been a little bit disjointed. And what I mean by that is you've always had a few good players in there. You've had your Ozils, you've had your Sanchez's, you've had your Wilsheres and your Ramseys, your Aubameyangs. But they've always been in the team with other pieces around them that just weren't as good. Mm-hmm. So, you have strikers that aren't getting a good enough service, or you've got forward players that are scoring goals and assisting, but then you've got a leaking defence and a shit goalkeeper, which is stuffing them up at the other end. Now what I'm seeing is this Arsenal team is looking a lot more balanced.
Yeah.
The couple of weak links that we do have in this squad, we seem to be moving them on. And I would say that those weak links is a Xhaka. It's time to move him on and upgrade. Great season last season, but we should always be looking to upgrade. Or Rob Holding, a player, and El Neni. We seem to be churning over now, where we're not just looking at, as I said a couple of weeks ago, we should not stop looking at Arsenal as a team, as a first 11. We need to look at it in the same way as Man City do, and that's about a squad. That players on the bench aren't backup players. They're just as good as your first string, and they're waiting for their chance, and you have rotation. That's where we need to get to, and I'm slowly seeing that take shape now.
Yep. Rule left. I put a star on Rule's comment about Havertz. We'll come back to that one, Rule, if you're still watching. Tony?
That's going to take 2 or 3 more years after the rate we're going.
Yeah.
Because we'll probably have 12 good players or 13 good players.
I also think under Arsene Wenger, we were always that 1 or 2 signings away from just putting us over the top. And I think Mikel Arteta has come in, and he's got the ear of the owners, whether you like that or not, and they're listening to him. And it's with their blessing that he's spent 105 million on one player.
You know why?
This window. Why?
Because I've always felt that in the eyes of the owners, their project is Mikel Arteta.
Yeah,
he's their project. And the last thing, they've had Pep Guardiola now. He's already been talking vocally about when he plans to leave City. So they don't want to lose Mikel Arteta. They wanted to make sure that he signs a new contract. And if they don't back him, then they know that they will lose that manager. So they're doing. I think that they're doing everything that they can to give him a nice environment to do his work.
And PSG, he had that conversation about PSG, asking about him. Obviously, was never going to leave, but that's the first salvo for our manager. You know what I mean? 4 years in the job, yes, he's been learning each and every one of those years, and now we need him to step into that arena where you can manage a 105 million pound player in midfield. You can manage a player of Timber's quality from Ajax or a Havertz from Chelsea. You know,
Can I make another
BX,
point as well?
yeah,
Please?
sure.
What I think is very important now moving forward, now that if we have secured Rice and we wait and see the announcement and he's an Arsenal player, which will be the biggest British transfer in the transfer market in the history, I believe. What we have to do now is we have to give Declan Rice time to breathe, because it's going to be a big weight coming in with that on your shoulders. Everybody's going to be looking and expecting, Cruyff turns at every point in the game. We have to let the guy have an opportunity to breathe and to be himself, and not to be overly critical from day one. He's playing in a position in the park where you go in for tackles, and sometimes those tackles, you don't make them right. You take out the player, or you don't get there in time. He's in a very central position of that team in the engine room, where he's either making passes to try and put the team on the front foot, or he's trying to cut out the opposition, making a move on us. And that's a very precarious position to be in, a very responsible position, and we just can't be jumping on him from day one. Oh, it's $100 million. He's shit. Look at him. He missed that pass. do you know what I mean?
Yes. And we're going to talk a lot about his character tonight. We're going to talk a lot about what we see maybe in his character, who he is as a person, and what he can do for this team moving forward. Alonso BX Gunner says, I really think they just tried to do a Grealish, which is scary. City can flex 100 million for fun. And Grealish is a winger. Declan Rice, we've put 100 million in the middle of the park for us in our team.
Yeah, and those guys at City have good rapport. I think. Looking at England's team, right? There's like 4 of them on England's team, and I think 2 from Arsenal on England's team. So I'm sure they probably convinced Declan Rice as well to join City. So it kind of shows you how good of a friendship Bukayo Saka and maybe Ramsdale have with Declan Rice.
Yeah.
Maybe become agents, as we have to say it, and help Declan Rice convince him on why Arsenal is a good project, or at least a competitive, attracting a brand of football, as we all called Arsene Wenger's Wenger ball. So, in the grand scheme of things, it was really huge of Declan Rice to sign with Arsenal on many reasons, at least in my opinion, to do so, because, you can also see Declan Rice not only captaining Arsenal on some occasions, but also captaining England as well. So, I think you got to look at it also as a leadership standpoint. Because he's a leader. He's a natural born leader, I think, to captain West Ham after he took over for Mark Noble, right? So, he's a good guy, and I'm glad we have him.
Yeah, great point about Mark Noble. And, again, I don't know much about Mark Noble. We're not West Ham fans here. He strikes me as a normal bloke, a guy who's very grounded, and he probably imparted a lot of those values onto Declan Rice, who was, grew up under his tutelage at the club as captain at West Ham. BX said 2023, the year Arsenal became an elite club. And you know what? It's going to be 20 years. Next year is going to be 20 years since we won the league. And it's high time we got back into that. We've had probably 3 title challenges in those 20 years. And last year was one of them. I'll count last year as one of them as well. So people who don't like Mikel Arteta, he's dragged the club from the bottom or mid-table, 8th place, up into a title race with City, one of the best teams in modern football, whether they're doing it the right way or the wrong way. And I believe they're cheats, allegedly cheats. City didn't pay 100 million for Grealish to warm their bench. Exactly. Errol Selvin was here before. The Cronkies are now backing him by getting all of his number 1 targets. So fair play to Arteta. He has done a fantastic job. Arsenal.
And you might need to hide here in a minute.
The key to it is you don't run and you don't look like you're guilty, Tony. So you just sit there and wait for the cars to go by you.
Sounds like I like 12. 12
seen it in
police
the
cars that
movies.
sold up to
We've seen in the movies. BX said
fans.
changing Arsenal's fortunes around was a damn near impossible job. Arteta has done a miracle. I still remember Man City coming to the Emirates and beating us 3-0 on that night. We were dog shit. Can I say that? We were dog shit that day, and they were good. Now we're fighting with them. And the next step is start to take points off City, you know. I disagree with Arsenal being an elite club, but big club, yes, but not elite. Pedigree. Champions League titles are needed. That's the one thing we always want to see, right? Winning the Champions League now. And hopefully we're making strides towards that. But it's going to be a long road to be champions of Europe, you know. Arsenal are paying big price tags regularly now. They're hitting another level. The evolution of this thing will mean we need to start selling players for profit. I saw something about Tavares today. Selling them to West Ham for $8 million. That's not turning a profit. And why are we doing West Ham a favor? You know what I mean? And in England, Arsenal are definitely an elite club, but there are so many big clubs here. A third most successful in England. That's it. After Liverpool and United, we're the third most successful club in England, and we need to start winning, putting some trophies in the case as well. Like Tottenham had a 5 or 6 year golden window. They didn't win anything. You know, we're going to come into this 5 or 6 years, and we need to win things. We were winning FA Cups when they weren't winning anything.
And they've kind of gone through the same situation with us. And just to clarify, because I see Raul's written, Wenger did not have the luxury which Arteta has at this point. And that may have been in light of the comment that I made about when we had a disjointed team. And I wasn't digging Arsene Wenger out for that. You're right, Raul. He didn't have the resources at that time to build a complete team because of the stadium move. So we were always a bit disjointed. We could only go out and get, one or two stars like a Sanchez or an Ozil or what have you, but we just didn't have the funds available to really give the team what it needed. And I think we're in that place now. I think the stadium has mostly been paid off. We now have an owner that's 100%. We don't have a board with different varied amounts of shares and not knowing who's going to take over and not wanting to commit any money because the future doesn't look certain. But the future does look certain now. And you only have to look at the other sporting interests that our owners have. I think they've got the flavour of winning. They've got a taste for it. All of their sporting franchises are doing so well. And
they've won in the other codes.
I think that Arsenal was a very important piece of their portfolio, and they want Arsenal to also reflect that success as well.
Lawrence Emmanuel's asking, do you think Arteta will try and get Caicedo? We are inquiring about him. Ultimately, I don't think we're going to get Caicedo. I think Chelsea have probably gone a little bit further in that deal than we have. We've been working on the Rice deal. But would you be okay with Lavia?
We helped him. We helped Chelsea there.
Chelsea have money. Whether we help them or not.
We just gave them money.
We took care of our business, Tony. We took care of our business. Yes, we gave them 65 million for Havertz. They were always going to be looking at Caicedo, irrespective of whether we give them money or not. And I think that's what's happening in the Premier League now. The money's in the Premier League, and the money is washing around between the teams. So you get a Chelsea player going to Man United. You get a Chelsea player going to Arsenal. That's what's happening. You get some City players ending up at Arsenal. It gets a City player going to Chelsea, as we had last season. Rice could be the perfect Mezzala in our team. Doesn't mean anything to me, but you guys, Stan is smiling there.
No, I was just looking at, I think is it Matt the Southern Gooner? I was just looking at his comment in there saying that I look like $1 million. Look what a good transfer window does to you. Well,
yeah, and Matt,
enjoying
earlier in the stream, Stan was like this, sitting back, basking. I mean, isn't it good to be an Arsenal fan right now?
It's all because of Stan's hair.
That's what it is as well.
Hair.
But I mean, as Arsenal supporters, though, we've been very used to having a lot of our business done right at the end of the window. Late deals, sort of like the last half an hour, something pops up. It seems to be that those days for us are gone. We got our players in now so they can have a pre-season.
Yeah, and we saw that last season. We came out of the blocks with 5 straight wins. Unfortunately, at United, we didn't get the 6th win. Pradesh says, I fear we don't have a good enough striker and the entire attack could fall blunt with Jesus up front. Should Arteta change the formation altogether? I don't think he's going to change the formation, but what I do think is
I do.
Balogun could be convinced to stay. Look at the rest of the team. We've got quality everywhere. All over the field now, we've got quality. And players coming back to fitness in the name of Emile Smith-Rowe. Balogun you could make a case for Balogun and say you could be the tip of this team. You could be the spear, the tip of the arrow, Tony.
I agree with Stan because
We'll get to you down, Alonso.
I'm pretty sure that they're going to go to a 4-4-1-1.
Change 4. What was that? 4-4-1-1.
Yep.
Okay, 4-4-1-1. Yeah, that could work. Anything else, Tony?
Nope.
Okay.
We're finally investing in the midfield. Way too much.
Alonso, we are definitely investing in midfield. Alonso, the striker position for a second before we get back into Declan Rice. You do see an opportunity for a player like Balogun to come in and make hay.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that Balogun. I want to give a shout to Bordeaux. He's a gooner from my home city, the same city I live in. He's a great friend of my mom. So hey, Bordeaux. Anyway,
good man.
Yeah, he's a good guy from right here. So I haven't met him in person yet, but maybe soon. He was interested in a podcast, so I invited him on to see us. Anyway, yeah, Balogun, he's got a good talent, and I think Arsenal will be foolish to let him go, especially the price that they want him at there. Especially at the price that he's valued at. Why would you want to let him go for? I think the agent has the influence over him, I think. But I think he just fights for a place. I mean, that's hard to do, So I don't know. I just want Balogun to stay. I think his marketing, him being American, him being now American international, will help the fans here a lot realize that there's an American play for Arsenal. It's special. So
two Americans. Two Americans.
Yeah,
Right.
Turner.
Right, and Matt Turner's a good backup to have. And he's really good, as you saw in a penalty kick against Jamaica. So, we're very lucky to have him.
Yeah,
also.
definitely. As Alonso says here, hey guys, Pradosh and his wife are a friend of my mom's. He's a gooner from the same city as me here in the Woodlands. That's what we like to do. Bring a friend with you onto the podcast here and bring him into the chat here. So that's good stuff, Alonso. And welcome, Pradosh, as well to Arsenal Fan Circle. Stan, what are your thoughts on the striker, Balogun?
I think that we will see a tweak in the formation next season. I think we've been seeing tweaks gradually almost each season since Mikel Arteta has been in charge. And with them getting a player like Yuri and Timber, it seems like we're going to have 2 fullbacks who will be able to invert, hopefully not at the same time, because if I was a central defender, that would scare the pants off me. So, where's everyone gone?
Where are y'all going?
If they can take turns at it, it seems that, when we're attacking and...
Look at this. Beatnik, right? Is that what we call him?
Tonsky. Tonsky.
Tonsky.
I think that, when we're off the ball, we seem to go into a 4-4-2. But I think that when you see us on the ball with one of those, fullbacks inverting into the midfield, which will leave us at 3 at the back, an extra body in the midfield, and I think you're going to see Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard taking turns to kind of rotate as a second striker with Gabriel Jesus, because both of Odegaard and Kai Havertz, I think that is, and I'm saying that this is what I believe I've heard them say in various reports over time, that is their preferred position to play behind the striker.
Yeah.
So as I've been banging the drum, about 2 being up front, there will be times when it looks like we're playing with 2 up front. And I've been saying that that's coming back for some time.
Yeah, I would just like
we've been wishing for the duration of the show. When Ray began this, we all
and
talked about.
I'd like us to have something more robust up front. If it's 2 up front, something better than Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne. It's going to be tough to do that, But
you see De Bruyne doing it, don't you? Right? He's attacking midfielder, but you see him almost at times playing up there as a striker or as a second striker. And I think that seems to be a shift now. What managers are doing with their teams. Yeah. Seeing a lot of teams playing with 2 up front.
Coming back around, right?
Which I like. I'm happy about that. I've always liked
Rule said, I do not see Balogun at Arsenal. More than likely will be sold to recover money for further spending. Yeah, we will have to recover money, but I'm also looking at a big gaping hole as striker, and Gabriel Jesus can do a job for us, but we're probably going to be playing 55, 60 games this season, all told. And I don't think Gabriel Jesus and Eddie Nketiah can cover all of those 55 games. Something needs to happen up front. We can see another gaping hole up front, and where we're gonna go with that will be interesting. I'd sell Balogun and Eddie. Yeah.
Juve has cheap players.
What's that, Tony? Quick.
I said Juve has players for sale for cheap right now.
Juve, yeah, for sure. Stan, you were gonna have.
I was reading a couple of things, and we don't know whether they're true or not, or where the information comes from. But the stories I was seeing that the incoming of Havertz was unsettling Eddie. But if you listen to Mikel Arteta when he spoke about Kai Havertz, he specifically said about him strengthening the midfield. He was quite specific about that. He didn't say any attack up front. He said, or rotating with Jesus or anything like that. He said about playing in the midfield. So I get the impression that he's going to take Xhaka's place on the team sheet. Might not be playing in the same way and in the same manner, but would be taking his place in the team.
It does look that way, and that's going to bring us back a little bit to Declan Rice in terms of he will be asked to cover more ground now. A lot of us, maybe the perception is out there that Kai Havertz is not that good defensively, and Declan Rice will have to fill in that left side area where Zinchenko will probably invert into midfield alongside Declan Rice, but also to cover for Kai Havertz in the same way he probably had to cover for Granit Xhaka this past season, and allow that player to push on into the box and provide more goals.
But we're very fluid, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
We're very fluid, right? When you see like a team starting lineup, and you look, before a match, you can see where everybody is. But when you watch the game, for example, when Martinelli's playing on the left and Jesus is playing through the middle, sometimes they rotate, and it's the other way around. You see that Jesus is drifted out left, and Martinelli's making an appearance in the box. So we play in a very fluid way, and I think the days of footballers being wedded to one position are over. It seems to be that you have to be able to play in a couple of positions. We're seeing John Stones as a defender coming into midfield.
Versatility.
Same with Caicedo, Trent Alexander, Zinchenko doing it. We see strikers that are dropping deep and helping out into the midfield to get the play going, while wing wide forwards go ahead of them. So it's a very fluid way now. And look at Yuri and Timber can play in a couple of positions. Tomiyasu plays in a couple of positions. Kivior can play in a couple of positions.
Yeah, I'm excited about Timber, and he may even displace someone like Ben White in that right back position, or if he's going to play that right centre back position behind William Saliba. The other thing about William Saliba is we do not know about his back. And I was thinking about this on the drive today. we play Man City in our eighth game of the season.
I think he's
And
been
we're
fighting
gonna-
rough training, apparently.
Yeah,
He's been
but
active.
the back is
active.
going. I think this back is going to be a continuing thing, and I want William Saliba to be ready for that Man City game, and if it means another player stepping in for those other 7 games before, then so be it. We want to face City with the strongest possible side. There's no point in having Declan Rice in midfield if we don't have William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes to be that spine as well, and best
That's spine.
parts of our team.
Hey, you can take Miguel out, man.
He's our best defender. Why would you leave him out?
Because you got one defender better than him.
Yeah, listen, Alonso's clearly not a Magalhaes fan, and Tony is. And Stan and I kind of think he's pretty decent, Alonso.
Like Megalhaes chips in with goals as well, doesn't he?
He chips in with goals. I don't know about BX Gunner here. I don't think we'll be heading goals in for fun, but maybe Havertz at the height that he is will be something of a plan B that fans have been talking about. Saliba, Gabriel, Magalhaes from corners. We got to get back to scoring from corners as well. Come on, you Gunners, says Lolo. Listen, are we gassed about getting Declan Rice? Shout out to Lolo. We are gassed about getting Declan Rice over City. I don't care the circumstance or how it happened. The fact, as Stan said earlier, the fact that we did it and we showed a statement of intent, it was really, really important. If we'd have lost the league to City and followed that up in the transfer window by losing our number 1 target to City, it would have been quite depressing to have to target maybe a player called Lavia from Southampton. We may yet go after him. There's word of Caicedo, but I doubt if we're going to be able to bring Caicedo in as well.
There's also a third name now that's been entered, hasn't there?
Tchouameni.
Third name, and again, Tchouameni from Real Madrid. So it seems like the plan is that we will be looking to replace Thomas Partey, not add to him. If Thomas Partey is making a move to somewhere else, and there's a lot of talk about that, big money being offered over in Saudi Arabia, plus as well, he's recently converted to that religion, so that may even be another selling point for him. There's bids coming in from Italy, which probably won't be as substantial from Saudi Arabia, and I think that if Thomas Partey goes, then we'll be looking to bring in another person in the midfield. I personally would like to keep Thomas Partey, his off-field stuff notwithstanding. I don't know anything about that, but just for on the pitch stuff, I would like to add to him. I'd like Partey to stay, and then we bring in a Lavia and use Lavia in the way that we were trying to use Lokonga. A young guy who's coming in like Lokonga, but hopefully would be more productive than what Lokonga was.
Mm-hmm. I heard some murmurings that for different reasons, our first choice midfield in Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey wanted to leave for personal reasons, and Granit Xhaka's would be wanting to go back to Germany. His wife wants to go back there. Thomas Partey's could be of a different type of situation, the problems that he's been having.
Could be religious too, because like Stan said.
Could be too as well. Lolo said, agree, Stan. I call it Arteta's magical positional fluidity.
Also with the Thomas Partey thing, right? And not wanting to go into the off-pitch allegations, but for a football player, it must be difficult that you're going and playing games and you've got the opposition crowd are constantly chanting stuff at you. Maybe you think, maybe you think to yourself, I want to move to another country and try and have a fresh start and continue my career as a footballer. And I do think that some of that may have played a part into his huge drop off towards the end of the season. That played a part in it, and I think maybe that management have seen it, he's seen it, and maybe they sat down and agreed that it's probably best for him as a football career that he tries to continue his career in another country where he's not going to get that.
Yeah, for sure.
Stan, did you nab some exotic birds? Is that I have a police
Seagulls.
Are you a Brighton supporter? You're a Brighton supporter, equally, Stan. You're bringing Caicedo up from Brighton. Lolo said, all these signings will put pressure on all the players to be better than last season. Alonso, that's a good thing. We're now moving like a big club, and we're going to have a squad of players that we expect to get results from. It is a results-based business.
Yeah, and it's about time to have players pushing each other to get that starting position. We haven't had that in a while, probably years since we had that kind of depth. Though I want to go back to something Stan had said about that rotation. I know people get criticized a lot, and I think one player that got criticized was Vieira. And it takes time to adapt to a new league, especially the English Premier League. So my hope is that he becomes good next year, knowing that he had 1 year of experience under his belt in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And you never know. There's a lot of talent in Fabio Vieira. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on that per se, because I know Stan, you're a fan of his, right?
Who
We call
talking
him
about?
something different, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
Gary's not
Teabag.
here. Gary's not here, man. He can teabag it up.
Even Gary being here doesn't stop us saying teabag.
Or these nuts.
He
Listen,
better become a.
teabag.
He's almost becoming a bit of a forgotten man sometimes. You feel, we've still got this player that we paid 35 million for,
He
and
better
I
become
still
some
I have faith in
leader.
him. I have
What?
faith in him.
He's not big enough. He needs to get food down him.
Listen, Tony.
Because all wasn't a giant.
Yeah, I don't buy into this. Get into the gym, eat some steak. If you're good enough, then if you can play well, you're good enough. You know what I mean? So he just needs to play better and adapt to the league.
He never looked like it though.
There are going to be games where Arteta's got to pick him and play him. He's got to have more minutes, and we as fans have to watch his performances.
There's gotta be, but will he do it? That's the.
We have to remember that. Sorry.
So far, he hasn't done that.
I can't hear you, Tony.
Yeah, you're a bit low.
I said, so far, he hasn't done that.
So far, he hasn't done that. So far, he's lived up to expectations. True.
You got to remember, so when we brought him from Portugal, he was like, I think his last season, he was like the biggest assister in the Portuguese league. And it was I can't remember what the number was, but it was a big number as well. So
11, 17 or something like that.
And you've seen glimpses of it. He's got a good shot on him. I think once he settles in and adapts, I think there's a player. I still have faith in him. I still believe it's going to come good.
Rule said BX referring to the fact that we have improved the height of our midfield. Therefore, in the opponent box, we should be getting more headed goals. Yeah, statistically, that should be the case. You have Kai Havertz. You have a couple of really good defenders in there. So we should be more threatening, and there should be more Nicholas Jover-inspired set-piece play. Vancouver sounds well.
What happened to our
Tony?
set piece? What happened to our set pieces last year? The year before, we were great, only loud.
I think teams game plan against you. I think teams understand what you're trying to do, and every half dozen games you have to try to switch some things up because they look at your most recent games and they see what you're doing, particularly the set pieces. Rule really hope Partey stays. It's not sensible to have our two central DMs leave at once. Essential to our Premier League and Champions League goals for continuity, Stan.
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear it. I don't think it's like I'm about to get attacked by a flock of seagulls. I'm not talking about the 80s band either.
Do you have food on your deck?
No, not at all.
Hello, Hawkwood.
Sam sent him over to.
The barbecue's not on.
Fabio's in the gym as we speak. Yeah, listen, all the stuff about Fabio. Fabio, teabag, just play better. And they won't talk about you being in the gym. You won't need to be in the gym if you play better. You know,
I really hope this is his breakout season. I really do. You have to remember when we had Martin Odegaard on loan and he went back to Madrid, there were people that they were saying that they would, let's not get him, let's get Bundia instead.
yeah.
I'm really glad that we
Madison
kept and showed faith. Yeah.
Madison's gone to Tottenham as well. That's crazy.
Did you hear about Madison? Apparently, he had to go back on his social media and delete past tweets of where he's like, saying bad things about Tottenham.
It must be horrible if you're a player that doesn't. A player's got to have some say, but apparently he didn't have any say in where he's going. All right, let's get back to Declan Rice then, because we're gassed about this, right? All of the traits that Declan Rice can bring to the table. I'm going to list a few things off, and you can all chat about it. A captain, a difference maker in his prime. My personal feeling is he's going to stop about 10 goals going in that we would have conceded last season, and he's going to probably add to our attack in terms of breaking play up and transitioning forward. So we probably have about a 20-goal swing in terms of our goal difference. We'll score about 10 more. We'll concede about 10 less. I think Arteta will improve him as well, and he'll be able to get into the box and get on the end of some things and score some goals. I think he's an honest player, a warrior who will work hard, a player who chose to help Arsenal instead of some people would say taking the easy way out and going to City. So that says a lot about his character as well, in my opinion.
I don't think it does.
Also, he has no love for Tottenham as well, because there has been North London derbies. There's a rivalry between West Ham and Tottenham as well. So he's going to renew some rivalries with that team.
And he's a Chelsea boy, and Chelsea and Tottenham don't share love.
Yeah, exactly. I think more can come from his game as well. And he's like a marquee signing like Roy Keane was for Manchester United, like Patrick Vieira maybe for our team Arsenal, and like Virgil
the difference
van Dijk.
In price, isn't it? The price between Rice and Vieira is just like...
Yeah. Vieira was like 4.5 million. Roy Keane, I think, was about the same. So that's what 30 years does to you, Stan. So what do you think about all the things we're probably going to have him for 5 or 6 years? So 105 million over 5 years. Basically, you can break it down as 20 million a year.
What I would say about the stats on Rice is that if you look at his stats, he's never had a great goal tally or a great assist tally. However, I did notice towards the end of last season, did you notice once the start of the talk of him being connected to Arsenal came up, he started popping up with some goals, as if to say, like, look what I can do. I can also put him in the back of the net. And who knows how he's going to be deployed. I mean, who would have thought that Granit Xhaka would have been able to have transitioned from a number 6 that was always playing on the edge and was quite costly into moving into a position and where how many goals did he score last season, Xhaka?
I think 7.
Not bad at all, so who knows what under Mikel Arteta's tutelage that he might be able to bring out of Declan Rice.
Yeah. And playing from that number 6 position. Tony, you wanted to pick apart some of the things I said there about Mr. Rice?
I forgot what I was a pick at.
What's that?
I forgot what I was a pick at.
Yeah, okay, I'll go through it again. Listen, a captain, a difference maker in his prime. He's going to work hard for the team. A player who chose Arsenal over City, so it says a lot about his character, his desire to win. He wants to do it with the playing a lot of minutes, probably in his position that he prefers, and the vision that Mikel Arteta has sold him. A player who has no love for Tottenham, so he'll probably be an instant success at Arsenal as well because of that. And he probably will add more goals and assists to his game.
My thing was that with what you said at Havertz picking us over City because of whatever reason he is there. But he played at Chelsea. They went through 10 million attackers over the last 2 years. He didn't get to play much. So when he's offered to play more, guess where he's going to go? Place that offers him the most money.
Mr. Bungle just woke up for his obligatory
Slash.
in the middle of the night and must have seen a notification that the fan circle was on. So welcome, Mr. Bungle.
Yeah, and he's slashing into a different kind of circle. So the parallels are there. The parallels are there. Alonso, what's your thoughts on Declan Rice? His character seems like an all-round good bloke, and maybe that's the type of player we're trying to go after, people with good character.
Yeah, and I remember whenever Mark Noble wasn't playing as much for West Ham, and he decided that Declan Rice was the next man in charge of West Ham. So, you could tell right there that, he admired Declan Rice enough to where he wanted him to be the next captain of West Ham. So, it speaks volume about who he is as a person, as a man, as a leader. And West Ham are historically a noticeable club. One of my good friends, who's an Arsenal supporter, his brother supports West Ham. So it's a London club. So Declan Rice is obviously a well-known player playing for England. He's got high regard there too. So we're getting we're not only getting a good player, we're also getting a good leader, a good captain, a guy who fits in with everyone. So it's a good signing in that perspective too, or perspective rather.
Yeah.
Something else that I noticed as well is that I always look at when you're linked to the player, and there's a lot of transfer talk, and it looks like they may be coming to your club. I always look at how the player acts themselves in the situation. For example, if you look at Mudryk, I mean, the guy was twerking for his supper, wasn't he? He was like really, doing all. And when I look at that, I think to myself, one day the day will come and this player may be sold on from Arsenal. We'll be looking at clubs and trying to make a profit. How is a player going to be in that situation? And I was looking at that and thinking, is that what it's going to be like when we try and sell him? And again, Caicedo, he went very public, didn't he? Wanting the move as well. Which, okay, he wasn't over-twerking, but he kind of was making it clear that he wanted to. But Declan Rice played his hand very well, didn't he? He's gone about his business. He's helped his club, as the captain, get through to the sharp end of a European Cup competition and help them win. And also as well, he was polite enough to sit down and listen to what Pep Guardiola had to say. But he hasn't just gone for the money either. He hasn't just gone, I know what I told you, Mikel, but you know what I mean? They're going to pay me another 50 bags more a week. So I'm off there. He's stuck by his principles. So I'm not claiming to know the guy. I don't know anything about him, but just by those observations, it feels good. Yeah. When the time comes that we may decide to part company with him one day, it feels that it will all be done respectfully and we won't have a problem.
And I wonder if he's looked at both clubs and we've seen pictures on the Etihad where the crowds are just not there. The fan base doesn't seem to be as strong as our fan base. And it's not kind of a family atmosphere. Around Arsenal, we have the following that is kind of a family atmosphere. I think Mikel Arteta has created that over the last
3-4 years. Yeah, but you almost still always have 20,000 empty seats, right?
At the Etihad?
No, at the Emirates.
You do not have empty seats at the Emirates.
Yes, you do.
Not this past season. Not 20.
Have you ever been, Tony?
They're like hen's teeth. They're so hard to get.
I've listened to people like Harry, for example. Harry Semi, who's told stories, a season or so ago, a couple of seasons ago, where he couldn't attend a match. He couldn't give tickets away. Couldn't give them away. People were either washing their hair or they had a lawn that needed mowing, or a kid that needed taken to an activity. Now, he's getting asked all of the time if he's not going to a game, is his ticket available? And I think that's happened to a lot of people that have season tickets. Gold dust.
So yeah, definitely the seats are going to be hard to get this coming season as well. If by all accounts we're going to start winning games, Tony, and be up there at the sharp end of the league, doing well in the Champions League, and we'll probably talk about the kind of targets we should be hitting next season as well in due course. So I think he's looked at the club and looked at the atmosphere Arteta is trying to engender and bring into the club. You know, there is a lot of unity in our dressing room, and looking from the outside, Man City look like mercenaries to me. You know what I mean?
I also think that we should not underestimate the probably, not so much known conversations of Agent Saka on England duty to Mr. Rice as well.
Yeah. You looked at pictures, Stan, Alonso and Tony. You looked at pictures of Declan Rice hanging out with Grealish. You wondered and he was hanging out with Saka, and you wondered if that played a part as well in his decision. And it was probably Saka seems to be the type that is more professional.
I was just thinking that Declan Rice probably had a chat with Grealish, had a chat with Saka, and probably thought to himself, you know what? If I go out for a drink with Saka, I could probably keep up. So I'm going to go there. I'd never keep up with that Grealish.
Yeah, we all know what that feels like when you get in rounds with someone and it's not that easy to keep up with them, you know, and you get out of sorts if you try to keep up as well. So yeah, I think
Saka looks like he goes down. Saka looks like the guy that goes down a pub and just has an orange juice, like Phil Mitchell, just has an orange juice.
Yeah, and look, I think Declan Rice is dedicated to his craft. Saka is dedicated to his craft as well. So Declan Rice has been interviewed before saying he's very ambitious and he wants to win things. Yes, and some people take issue with that because why didn't he go to Man City? Well, there's probably reasons in terms of playing time,
minutes,
the vision,
minutes, right?
Hey, right.
I hear you, Tony.
Minutes.
I hear you.
Which is good, isn't it? Which again shows you what his values are. He values the playing time and the profile over a big sack of money.
And there's a player up there called Rodri. Would have been doubtful if he would have been able to split time with him or be in a different position. So the timing was right for Declan Rice, and the timing for Arsenal to be in this position. This is the reason we complained, Tony, 2 years ago. We were buying out players' contracts. We were reducing the squad in January, and now we're seeing the fruits of that labor. Yeah, we missed out on Champions League last year, but now we're in it.
We'll be able to stay in the top four and challenge in the Champions League.
The top four is your bread and butter. The league has always been bread and butter for every team. Alonso, it's going to be very important next season to stay in the top four. And with Declan Rice in the team, Saliba, Saka, Martinelli, we should be talking about top two. We should be no further than second place.
Maybe Saliba.
Yeah, and you got to do that. I think that, it's funny because, we talk about getting timber, right? And how, for some reason, Martinez for United played so small at center back, right? Just imagine how Declan Rice towers over him to get a header and for goal, right? And when they play them. So, yeah, I mean, we got our players now. I think Havertz is going to be hungry to prove himself on why Chelsea didn't use him properly. I think, so there's a lot of stories that to be rewritten. I think Jesus should have used that motivation on why he was injured and use that motivation to say, well, I'm still a good striker, good enough to be in the top of the table, help Arsenal get in the first place and win the league, right? And you have Odegaard. Can you repeat that? Can you repeat what he did this year, last year, this year?
Got to.
So, and also, can Saliba stay healthy? Can Tammy also stay healthy? Can can Tierney overtake Zinchenko starting spot again? So, there's a lot of storylines that I think will help motivate Arsenal
Yep. Yep.
to win the league. So, I think if Party stays, he'd be used for rotation. But the thing how good we could be if he stays, so.
Stefan said City will still be favorites, to be honest. That may well be the case, but I don't think that we won't be far behind being second favorites. I think the odds will have shaved a little bit closer in that case. You know what I mean?
And also, people still forget that we have QBR too.
Yeah.
Who's still,
as
I
well.
think.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Sam.
No, go. I thought you'd finished. Right, big pauses. Go on. No, you're good.
All right, so QBR, I think a year he wasn't here long enough, so I think next year going to be pretty important for him as well.
Yeah.
To adapt to Premier League and hopefully get more playing time at least for Megadash.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of holes in this squad and players that still need to prove themselves. Stan, you had something there.
You have to remember that all of this money that Mikel Arteta has been given to spend, the Cronkies aren't just going up to him and giving him a checkbook and just telling him to fill out the checks as he wants. You have to remember that the key part of how we do business is that we are a self-sustaining model. What that means is that the owners have kept up their part of the bargain by backing the manager. In order for us to be a self-sustaining model, it's now up to the manager to ensure that we do qualify for Champions League, that we do win things, because that's how you become a self-sustaining model, because you have to be winning the money to put back into the kitty.
Yep.
And it's so important. Now, the one thing where I still have a little bit of concern about Arsenal is how we sell players. We seem to have made a bit of a pig's ear of that at times. I mean, we're in a situation now where it looks like we're going to get hardly anything back at all for the 72 million investment into Nicolas Pepe. We may be having to sort of like rip up his contract as well. Now, this is something that we need to get right, because looking at Balogun, and somebody pointed out to me the other day that you got that young Danish kid that everyone's talking about, Højlund. Danish kid. Scored 6 goals last season, and people are talking about him being sold for 60 million. And then you've got a Balogun who, okay, you can say it's a farmers league, but he made a high contribution in goals. And we're talking about selling him for half the amount. I mean, where is the logic in that?
Yeah, and
so we have to get the selling part. We have to get the selling part.
You would think what Balogun has done in the French league is much more high profile than what Højlund did. Unless, is he a Norwegian player? Maybe the next big Norwegian thing to come after
Denmark.
Haaland.
Danish.
You know what I mean? Is he Danish? Okay. Yeah, you would think Balogun would be more high profile.
The best places to go at the night.
BX said we could still land Caicedo, apparently. That would be madness. If we go and get Caicedo as well, I think we are in for another midfielder. But I'm thinking it could be the level of Lavia from Southampton. Or, as Stan said, Tchouameni, maybe from...
but that's a lot of money as well.
A loan, maybe a loan.
They only bought him a season ago for 80 million euros. So that ain't going to be a cheap one either.
But now they've brought Bellingham, right? Does Bellingham push him out a bit?
I don't think this way. No, because I'm not sure where Tuchemeni plays. I think is he more of a box to box than an outright defensive midfielder or attacking midfielder?
Sure myself.
Maybe. I'm not too sure, but if we've got Havertz, Rice, Yuri, and Timber, for me, if we were to bring in a Tuchemeni as well or a Caicedo, that's just off the charts, man. That would be off the charts. But I think it is going to be dependent on whether we bring money in for a Thomas Partey.
Yeah, as Stefan said, also 72 million write-off is outrageous. We're getting to the end of that time where these players, the big mistakes that we've made 3 or 4 years ago, are coming back to us in the name of Nicolas Pepe being one of them. Cedric being the other one. I think Pablo Mari has moved on.
Yeah, we sold him for 7-8 million, maybe something like that.
To Monza, and
Yeah,
we were talking about Tavares earlier in the podcast as well. That's a player that needs to go for profit. You know, he's had a decent season in the French league. He started out pretty well with Marseille. Yeah, decent-ish.
done exactly the same. He done what we did with us, didn't he? He started out really well and then totally fell off the cliff, which he done with us.
Yep. Rule said he's a DM in the French and former Monaco team. So Tchouameni was a DM. Still, Tchouameni could do something. We could move Rice around. We could move Partey around in that midfield. Wasn't Lavia on City's books? Yeah, he was, Mr. Bongo.
I think they have something like an option to buy him back, but that only comes into effect next season. So if you're going to buy Lavia and keep Man City out of getting involved in any way, it has to be this summer. Something like that.
And I know Liverpool are also interested in Lavia. You know, I think the strength of looking at us as being a team that's making moves. Top teams get their business done early, Alonso. You know, and we're doing that in this window. We're looking at Liverpool, we're looking at Man United and Tottenham, and they haven't made as many moves as we have.
Yeah, and it's going to be done early because in the past, you kind of cut it too close to where by the time our targets, they've been signed or we just lost out on them. But yeah, it's important because, you know, the fans in the States obviously want to see them play, see them goof around and have fun in an Arsenal kit, right? So, you know, that's what the preseason is about, traveling with the team and doing signings and kit revealings and all that. So, you know, I think it's always important, not only that, to also get accustomed to the system. If they're not from London, you know, it prepares them to settle in the city and just be with their teammates and bond, because it is a long season and it gets accustomed to the way that they act, the way they perform during preseason, and get a chance for the fans to get to know them. And seeing how they're going to come here to the States, I think it gives them also worldwide recognition here in the States and more publicity. So all those things considered, I think everyone currently on the squad is healthy, and we haven't had that in I think a while. So yeah, getting Rice and Timber and Havertz come with during the preseason tour is quite amazing, to be honest. Because like I say,
Great business.
The signing's a little bit too late to where they don't even play the first game of the season. So
Real said Lavia agent is the same as Saka's agent, and that's going to help as well. You know, we have this open line of communication with the agent can be very helpful. Mr. Bongo, we're showing a bit of ambition for a change. Yeah, listen, I've been following Arsenal for over 30 years, and we had that ambition all the way through till we moved to the Emirates, and then we seemed to lose that ambition in the wilderness until the ownership became 100% controlled with the Cronkies, and now we're back in it. Got to believe it, and it's really nice. You watch around other rival podcasts, you know, and they have been very dismissive of Arsenal, and some of them still are. Some of them only know about Arsenal bottling the last 2 seasons, and they don't really see what's going on behind the scenes, you know, where we have brought in a generational talent in Saka, added Martinelli to that, brought in Martin Odegaard. Martin Odegaard was one of the first players to actually buy into Mikel Arteta's vision. You know, we got him on loan and then we convinced him to come. Now he's our captain. Gabriel Magalhaes, we got him from Lille. So we've been adding these pieces through the years, and now we've gone big with Declan Rice. I don't know if we're going to spend 100 million again on another player. or if we spend the 80 million on Caicedo. But I do like the ambition in getting our number one target, Declan Rice, across. Hope you give it a like and comment. Thanks, Mr. B. So, yeah, we take the whole thing in the entirety over the last 4 or 5 years. We've come a long way. You know, we were talking about Colonel Mustard earlier in the podcast, and now we're talking about William Saliba, and we're talking about. I'm going to go through a couple.
When you said a few moments ago, Ray, about that, we kind of lost a bit of ambition. And listening to an interview of Arsene a few weeks ago, he was talking about that, and you have to remember that with the move to the Emirates, I think after they'd done all of the costing, it ended up costing a couple of $100 million more than the original estimate. So we put ourselves into a situation where players like Henry, when it comes to renewing contracts, we were no longer in a position to offer them the money that they were worth.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. They had to go to a different place where they would earn that money, and then the money that we are spending on the replacements, well, you only have to look at it. You know, Shamak. You know, you just go to you have to shop in a different place and try and make the best that you can, and that's what Arsene Wenger was juggling with for a long time. And during that time, he's getting offers to go to Barcelona, to be this manager, to be that manager, Madrid, but he'd committed to the bank for another 5 years. That was part of them getting the loan that he would be at the helm. So he really sacrificed a lot, but it wasn't really lack of ambition. It was just how we're spending our funds now, and that's all. We seem to have come through that now, and we're able to, as I say at the very beginning of this podcast, we're now just strolling into Havertz. That's where we are at the minute.
I think it's good that you checked me on that one, Stan, because I'm always thinking during the Wenger years we just needed 1 or 2 more signings, and factually we couldn't because Arsene Wenger's hands were tied behind his back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but look how close we came at times, right?
Look how close we came to what?
To winning at times for those players. Yeah, they had Eduardo, if he didn't snap his leg in 2 places, they would have won the league.
Yep.
A lot of
2008
just shows you what he was.
So I've got 3.
Squeeze out of that team.
We challenged for the league in three occasions. We challenged for the league: 2008, 2016, and last year. In 20 years, so you kind of understand a little bit why some Arsenal fans feel we're Arsenal. We should be competing more of those years than just 3 out of the last 20. You know. Arul Salvin left a couple of starred comments here, one from Rule and one from Arul Salvin. Arteta has achieved almost everything that he had set out to achieve from the time he came to the club, changing the club from top to bottom. The next step now is like sustained success, Champions Leagues, like you said, Stan. In order for us to progress, we have to rubber stamp Champions League each and every season for the next 4 or 5 years at least. And we saw last season a lot of change in the top 4 apart from Man City. We came in there, Man United came in there, and Newcastle came into the top 4. And Liverpool have dropped down, Chelsea have dropped down, and Tottenham have dropped down. So there's a lot of flux going on in the Premier League, and we need to make sure that we're part of the top 4.
Hey, Ray.
4 or 5 years. Yeah.
You forget Tony's prediction for Chelsea next year. They're going to win the league next year, according to Tony. So
you said top 4. You said top 4, Tony. Do you stand by that? Yeah.
Tony there?
He's processing. He's processing.
Tony.
He'll be in the European spot.
Now you're going for European.
Oh, okay. They're in the league, not top 4, and then they're going to be in Europe.
Alonso, they will win the European Conference League, following up from their rivals West Ham. Go ahead, Tony.
But sitting here, we have this huge problem. Depth. Last year, who did Ray want? Who did Ray lust after? How much could we pay for that player?
You're
You're
lucky after, right?
You could have
Tielemans.
been free.
We've outgrown him, Tony. We've gone past that stage
Is
now.
it? Doesn't that
He'd still be a
confirm,
hell of a
Tony?
true player.
Tony Stan Alonso,
What player?
doesn't that confirm the talent ID that Mikel Arteta and Edu are running the rule over these players? And they said Yuri Tielemans is not good enough for Arsenal.
There was a point,
You know,
a season and a half ago, where he may have had a place, but I think that sometimes the team evolves, and I think that's kind of, unfortunately, whether you agree or not, as what's happened to Kieran Tierney. I think that Mikel Arteta thinks that we've now evolved past a player who has the attributes that Kieran Tierney has. I mean, I was actually quite surprised that the talk isn't, first of all, we heard that Newcastle was sniffing around Tierney, which I thought would be a good move. Manchester City, which I thought would be a crazy move. But now it seems like he could be going back to Celtic. And for me, that's a backward step.
mm-hmm.
And I have a Scottish background, as you know, but that's a fucking... You think the French is a farmers league? I don't know what you call it up in Scotland, man, but it's not competitive. It ain't competitive. I do not believe it's a competitive league up there. And for me, Kieran Tierney's better than playing up there. But who knows the circumstances behind it.
I think Tierney will probably move toward the end of the window. And now we're going to get into a phase probably next month where some of those players that are going to go on the tour with us will be open to move.
A quick question to all of you, right?
Yeah.
Quick question to all of you, and when I say all of you, I'm talking to everybody in the chat box, right? Do you think that the three players it seems that we have signed, Havertz, Rice, and Timber, let's say that they're in the bag, just with those alone, does that make us a better team than we were last season?
But you're anticipating similar players in those positions moving on, right?
Well, there's going to be some there may be some outgoings, but I mean, do you think that?
Yes, I will just say yes.
With 13 players, right?
Timber is better than Holding. Timber may actually displace White in his position in right back. So yes, I would say Rice is an upgrade on Partey. Rice is an upgrade on Partey. Yeah, and Havertz could be better than Granit Xhaka going forward, just numbers wise. You know what I mean?
I mean, it looks like we're definitely not going to keep Xhaka, so that's gone. Xhaka's gone. Partey, we don't know, but I mean, when I say at the moment, when I say the three players that we brought in, that's saying Partey is still with us. So where we stand today, because if Partey goes, we're bringing Caicedo or Tukameni.
We are
a
better team. I agree.
But I agree. Just saying with the three that we've got. I think so as well. And isn't that all you can ask for? You want to be able to. You don't want to be stagnant. You don't want to be going. No matter how well we did last season, you don't want to be going into next season with the same personnel. You're looking to get better, and I think that we've done that. And the window's nowhere near closed. Who knows what's going to happen next month? Who knows what could be happening 3 weeks from now? A late one coming in while we're in the middle of a pre-season or the pre-season's finished. That could happen because of funds that have been freed up by outgoings. We could find ourselves in a situation where we go, oh, we've got a few extra quid here. Let's bring in. We're in bonus. Everything from now on is a bonus to me. It's a bonus.
Yeah. Rice for me was key because if we're talking now about just Timber and Havertz, I'm feeling a little bit depressed because we haven't gotten our number one target. But Rice is our number one target. We got him, and I'm happy. I'm happy now with the window. BX said if we keep Kieran Tierney, Xhaka on Partey, yes, it does. It is a good window with those three acquisitions. If Partey stays with the three, we are a better team, says Ro.
Yeah,
definitely.
I agree with Ro.
Celtic.
I really want to keep Thomas Partey with what we have, but I honestly believe that, as I mentioned earlier, having to go to games where you've got the opposition crowd shouting stuff at you, it can't be good for you. You must wear on you at some point. You know, it almost feels like he's being chased out of town. And
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that. And who knows about the allegations? Maybe the allegations are true. They're not. Maybe it's not even him because there's not been any names. I can't get into that. But he is getting verbally he's getting verbals, and that's got to play in your mind a while. So it may be best for all parties. But as a player, there were times last season. There were times last season where people were saying that he was like the Don in that position, that nobody else could lace his boots. I'd like to get that guy back and keep that.
There was some games, yeah, a handful of games, maybe 10, 12 of those games. Wenger was a genius, balanced everything, competing for top four without the financial backing. Is also probably didn't. Do you think it's fair to say didn't have the competition that there is now in the league?
Chelsea. Chelsea there.
Had Chelsea, yeah. But you were only filling 4 spots, Tony, and you didn't have 6 or 7 teams capable of getting into the top 4. Arsene Wenger did do wonders, but he would also scraping into the top 4.
He didn't have all this TV money and everything else.
My biggest disappointment under Arsene Wenger was the season where we finished second behind Leicester. For me, that season was up for grabs, and we were so close. I mean, we were the only team that beat Leicester twice. And when Danny Welbeck scored that goal, man, I thought that was it. I thought it was happening.
Me too. At the Emirates, yeah.
And the reason I say that is because the reason that Leicester won and we finished second was because the other big heads, they were all in flux or disarray for various reasons. And so we left it open, and we did not maximise and snatch that.
Unfortunately, we only brought in a goalkeeper that summer.
Sure.
With Czech. Got to ask you a question then, Stan. With the knowledge of what happened, and obviously Alonso and Tony, with the knowledge of that experience against Leicester on Valentine's Day when Danny Welbeck scored that winner, we thought we were going to win. We thought we were going to win the league. Combine that with the experience of being 8 points clear a year ago or in January. And will we feel a little bit more circumspect about the title race? Will we have that experience behind us, Stan, about the title race coming up this season?
If you're Mikel Arteta and you're sitting down and you're looking and you're reflecting back over last season, and you're thinking to yourself, what happened? Why did we not maximise our 8-point lead and clinch the title? For me, the obvious answer is lack of depth, which is also compounded by injuries and suspensions. And at the end of the day, we were unable to compete and finish it because of a lack of depth for those various reasons. We got suckered with the Saliba injury, some suspensions, and not being able to bring in players that were up to the similar level. And you have to be able to then think, okay, well, I'm not letting that happen again. If I know what the answer is, then I have to change that. So,
and maybe we're seeing a bit of that with Timber, Havertz, and Declan Rice now. That's not going to happen to us again. And Arteta being a little bit more ruthless.
And here's the great thing about someone like Timber. He plays right back and centre back. I believe that he's played the highest majority of his games in Holland as a centre back, but he can play at the right, which allows us now to do a lot of things. Because if Saliba needs rotation, Ben White can go back into the middle, and we've got someone that can play on the right. And if Tomiyasu's available, he also plays right and centre.
This Timber is going to stiffen up our defense, that's for sure. And he can play.
And I'm not saying
that's what you're fucking fun tonight.
And I'm not trying to say that he's going to be excellent for us, because until we were linked with him, I didn't even know that he walked planet Earth. I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah, I knew about him last season. That
Season I heard about him last season. Timber.
Manchester United liked him. Tony, same question to you, and then I'll go to Alonso. Will the experience of last season being 8 points clear against City make us feel a little bit more calm about the title race?
What happened the year before, right?
the year before with Tottenham.
Oh my
He's
god.
always moving the goalposts. This
We
one.
lost 6-7 in the final 11.
Yep.
What do we do here?
We did the same thing. So we can't count our chickens, right, Tony?
No,
We gotta
Tony's
be-
always counting his chickens, man.
We gotta be more
Always.
cautious. We gotta be more cautious. Indeed.
Tony counts the
Yeah.
eggs.
The manager's got to change his ways on getting players in there. You got
Yeah.
five
But do you not
such
think?
institutions, make the use of them.
But do you not think, Tony, as he builds a stronger squad, because you can only ever play 11 in one game, he will be happier to go to the bench when you've got players of an equal quality like they have at Man City. You know, you look at Pep Guardiola could have his 11 out, and he can look at the bench and think, "Oh, I might bring on Mahrez. I might bring on Foden, or I might change something in the defence." And these are players that could actually be playing in the first team. They could be playing in the first team. If we get ourselves into that situation, because one of our biggest criticisms I heard last season was that Mikel Arteta doesn't switch it up enough. He doesn't go to the bench enough. Maybe he just didn't trust those people. And now he's putting himself into a position where he doesn't have just a good 11. He has about 16 players or so that he can rely on.
And I think that these players have that mentality. You know, Declan Rice have that mentality. I'm going to question Havertz's mentality if he's going to fight. But Declan Rice and I think Timber will definitely have that mentality as well. Stan rocking the Top Gun Maverick look.
I'd actually say I'm going for more of a Stringfellow Hawk look from Airwolf.
Yeah.
Sean Michael Vincent.
Alonso.
Goose. Who am I, Goose?
Alonso, us fans, will we
hang on. Hold on. No, Tony, you're the other bloke in Airwolf. Do you remember Ernest Borgnine was in it?
Yeah. The old guy was cool.
You're Ernest Borgnine.
Alonso, will we be more cautious this time next year in January if we have a 7 or 8 point lead and be a little bit more circumspect about the title race? You know, cautious, Alonso.
Yeah, you know, I hope Arteta learns from his mistakes and rotates more. I think that's been his biggest weakness as far as getting players more playing time. Other than that, I think now we have confidence in all areas now where we can compete. Our players can compete with each other for playing time. I mean, I think re-signing Reece Nelson, I think, shows his promise. He's always had talent. It's just a matter of him staying healthy. Arteta favors him a lot. He favors him to do well. Some of the Mills low. Riera is one of them. So, you know, the players want to compete for.
I want to see a seagull attack Stan right now. That's what I want to see.
You know,
see the
and
seagull-
you talk about
seagull
Timber
take the ball back
replacing Ben White. So, you know, things are good now. I think also with QBR playing with Gabriel Magalhaes and backing him up. Though I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna miss Rob Holding when he leaves. Those players meant something to Arsenal when they were down, the down days. So the dark times right there. And you see Holding and now Nene, guys that were Arsenal during their influx or the times that we weren't very good. So if they do go, I wish them the best. Like Xhaka. But like Stan said, you know, we progress as a club, so we need to get the best players available.
Yep, definitely.
Can I just say as well, something that I said all the way back on this broadcast, but all the way back, I think, under Unai Emery. I can remember saying a couple of times that I never felt that Arsenal's rebuild would really start in earnest or be recognisable in earnest until all of the players that were played for Arsenal under the Wenger era
Yeah.
are gone.
Yeah.
And we're almost there now because
Almost.
if Xhaka is leaving, then that only leaves El Neni
Rob Holding.
and Rob Holding. And for me, El Neni gets a bit of a pass because if he's going to do coaching and that, he won't really be playing. He'll be doing the coaching and that. But we're almost there. And I'm not saying that because I hate those players and get rid of them. But I just think that sometimes you have to change, evolve, move on, and we're almost there now.
Yep. But still, it's still contracts and all those players.
Yeah, I think your earphones, you're using AirPods. I think they're cutting in and out a little bit. I think Wenger knew how to win a title race. He moved away from the type of players that brought him success. Arteta, I think, has found a formula to do so, but still lacks that cutting edge. And we're all looking at the cutting edge as maybe the striker position. And Gabriel Jesus with a truncated season. Still got decent numbers, 12 goals. We want to see what he can do with a full season. And we're going to come back to it, Eddie and Kedia, right? As we evolve, you're going to look at the weaker links. You're going to look at maybe an El Neni, a Fabio Vieira, Teabag, maybe a Reece Nelson, maybe an Eddie and Kedia, Tony. You just muted yourself, I think, as well. Having a mare.
The lips are moving.
Tony.
Hitting him. It's like Walter White, isn't he? Of Breaking Bad. It's like Walter White of Breaking Bad.
You might have to put your AirPods back in. Yeah, exactly. El Neni has served a purpose, but has a ceiling. Yeah, we all know about that El Neni. And there's a lot of goodwill for El Neni, and some people say we should be ruthless when it comes to players like that. Hard to have a cutting edge when you don't trust positions 12 to 18. Hopefully that's diminishing a little bit, Spencer, where we're maybe saying 15 to 18, the last three players. Eddie Nketiah, Fabio Vieira, and another. I actually wrote out every player in each position and forgot about Jorginho. So Jorginho's part of the squad as well.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Well said. A forgotten man. So we do have
one of the forgotten men in midfield.
We have another capable player. He seems to be really happy. I think they're happy with him. Initially, it was like, it's going to be 18 months. That may be extended. And I have to say, if he's going to be in the El Neni role, meaning that he's not going to be your first pick, sometimes maybe not your second pick, but it's the suspensions, injuries, he's capable. You have to say that he's capable. And I was very worried about getting him in. I was just because it was like, I'm not another bod from Chelsea, and he's got as much. He's got like a, he's got as much pace as a full transit van loaded up with a piano and a sofa. But he played when we played that Newcastle game. He didn't look long in the legs at all. So I'm very happy with Jorginho hanging around and being available and what he brings to the team. He's a winner. He's won things. He definitely still has a place.
Yeah,
forgot all about him. Literally forgot all about him.
Tony, I don't think your mic is connected, Tony. Just to give you that heads up. Jorginho is, he's still with us. We selected poor players for so long we had to shift that dead weight out. Solo is asking, is Havertz going to be the main striker now, or will we change the formation and tactics? 2 strikers up top.
Yeah, second striker, that's what he does. I think if we're playing 3 in that midfield, and the deeper player and the 2 that are sort of behind the striker, we need 6 players, don't you? You need your first 3 and you need another 3. You need 6. And I think we're kind of there, aren't we? If you think about it, Jorginho, El Neni, Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, Martin Odegaard, Vieira, Emil Smith-Rowe, and if you even want to steal Thomas Partey still here, that's an 8th player, Thomas Partey.
Yeah. And the Emil Smith Rowe's one who's
That's
tearing it
variety.
up right now in the what is it, a World Cup, under 23 World Cup.
Yeah,
Um,
2 goals.
Tony, let us hear your wonderful voice.
I'm working on it.
There you go.
We
We
hear
can
you
hear you. The technical difficulty.
Yay!
A word for Emil Smith Rowe, Tony. He's got to have a big season now.
I don't know that.
I'm feeding
No,
him everything.
I was thinking,
Up with him.
like, do you sell the guy or do you try to play him? Because he's been injured so much. I don't know if the Euro would die on him or move on.
A lot of Arsenal fans will not want to sell him. You know.
Well, they don't want to.
I'll be right
sell
back.
or-
You guys talk about Emil Smith Rowe for a second.
All right.
Look at all the players they wanted us to keep. Jack Wilshere, always injured. It's always the same thing. You get in love with these players, and you don't want them to go.
Emil Smith Rowe, do
It's
you remember
the
that
time to
season
go.
when he played for us? He was coming off the bench, like he was one of our top goal scorers. Even when do you remember he'd been out for last season? He came in and he set up an assist by heading it into the box and we got a goal. He always makes a contribution. He's gone away with the under 21s. He's played 2 games. He's come off the bench. He scored 2 goals. He has a knack for goals. He does. And I think that next season there are 2 players which I think it's going to be really key for if I was Mikel Arteta to see, right, am I going to be able to get something out of these 2 guys moving forward? One is ESR, the other is Teabag.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be my pet projects. They would be my pet projects for next season because there is talent in both of them. Emil Smith Rowe has a knack for goal. He really does. He knows where the goal is. Do you not remember that when we were short on strikers, they were talking about him playing as a false 9 because the manager believed that he can do it. And we did try it a couple of times and it didn't really come off, but we didn't progress with it. But there's something in there. I mean, it was in it about 2 seasons ago when Aston Villa put in that bid for about 30 million, 35 million. I think a big season for both of those 2 players next season. The one that
I think somebody bid 50 at him at one point.
I think that he's still very young, and I think it's a shame that he got hurt. He's been hurt, but I think he can become good again. And like you say, I think there's something to say about him and Vieira becoming, because they're still very young. They're still learning. They still want to learn. They still want to be our Arsenal. So I think there's something to say about that. And Russell was a fighter. He doesn't want to give up. He doesn't want to give up. I think that he was raised very well. I think he's brought up very well too. I think that he's very skilled. One of my friends was saying that he's better than Saka because he's that good. But unfortunately, we haven't seen the best of him. And I think you're right. I think he's one of those guys that we need to keep an eye on because there's something there.
Yeah, if we can get him into a situation where he's fit and available and coming off the bench, and scoring goals and being involved in goal scoring opportunities, and then he's putting himself into contention for a starting place. What a great problem to have as the manager. You know, you put yourself into a situation where you're like, this guy's knocking on the door loudly every time he comes off the bench. He's making a difference. And that's the situation that you have to get yourself into. That's when you start seeing if the manager is earning his money. Because now he has to start picking the right teams because people are producing.
Yeah, we need to get into a position where we're rotating and we're seeing the best from a lot of these players as well. Tony?
Suddenly made the starting lineup when he came in for those games, 10 quick goals off the bench. Why don't you start him?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for minutes for a lot of players. And the more competitions you're in, the more you've got to use your players. You've got to use your squad. We've seen Pep Guardiola do this for ages. We've seen Jurgen Klopp being able to do this as well. All season managers need to be able to understand the amount of minutes that you're giving players. And for us as fans, it may mean we've got to suffer Fabio Vieira not playing too well, but at least he's getting minutes. Tomiyasu not playing very well, but at least he's getting minutes. And we just hope that the sum of the parts of the team, like a Rice, Saliba, Saka, and Martinelli, can carry those players through.
I don't think that Mikel Arteta would have agreed to give Emil Smith Rowe the number 10 shirt willy-nilly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And personally, I have this thing about squad numbers. It's a personal thing. Personally, I wish him and Odegaard could swap shirt numbers. For me, that would be heaven. Odegaard with a 10 and Emil Smith Rowe as an 8. But that's a whole other subject. But again, I don't think that Mikel Arteta would have gone out of his way to sign him and give him that improved contract like he did with Eddie. If there wasn't something, if he didn't believe in them, I think a little bit with Eddie to retain a sell-on value. And there have been talks about Eddie being unsettled and other teams being interested. Yeah. But then you find yourself in a situation where he's only just recently signed his contract. It's not like he's got a year to go. He's on 100 grand. He's on 100 bags a week. That means then, if he's looking at it and he's unsettled by a Havertz and he's thinking, well, I need to go somewhere and play minutes. If a team comes in for him, are they going to be able to offer him the same wages? Or are they going to say, we really want you. You're going to get minutes. You're going to be our starter. But we can't give you 100 bags a week. We can only give you 70. Mm-hmm. What kind of a person is he? Is he going to go, 70 bags is enough for me to live on a week? I could do that. Yeah. Or is he going to be this discussion is over? But then you're like, but hold on a minute. You're not getting the minutes at Arsenal and you're not happy there. Why are you staying? So this is what you have to look at. Have we painted ourselves in the corner, by giving him that kind of money? Or is that the market rate? Is that the market rate?
We have a real situation when it comes to Eddie Nketiah versus Balogun. And I think most of us will agree it's one or the other. You know what I mean? And Eddie is there a year ahead of Balogun, And does Balogun not want to play in the first team for Arsenal as well? Rule said, I think the 10 has lost its aura. And goes on to say,
the 10 has never been the same after Dennis Bergkamp, really. It's never had the same stature. I mean, William Gallas had it for a while. I mean, do me a favour.
That was the beginning of the end for number 10 at Arsenal. Rule would sell Emil Smith-Rowe and Nelson Harsh, but injury worries is a major problem. Robin Van Persie had injury issues also, and finally came good and left us. So,
do you know what I would do if I was? Do you know what I would do if I was Arsenal? When Arsenal unveiled the Dennis Bergkamp statue, do you know what else I would have done? I would have just retired the shirt, retired the number as well.
Yeah, something really doesn't get done in English football in the Premier League. Do you think Arteta is a little bit too much? He's been accused of being a vibes manager, Stan.
What do you mean by? I mean, I'm not looked into the youth chatter on the street. So what do you mean by vibes? What do you mean?
Vibes is like.
Hang on. Is that the same as cooking and flexing, or?
No.
I'm an old codger now. I don't know.
I'm the same age as you, Stan. But I'm just trying to use these terms.
I'm not locked in.
Alonso, you're the youngest here. You probably know. But what does vibes mean, right?
I don't know. I'm not that cool yet.
It's just a feeling, Stan. It's like doing something to bring harmony to the team. Olive trees, and dogs.
I mean, you're about to say man went out and bought a canine. So, and you know what I mean? He didn't call it Rover. He called it win. I mean, if that isn't on the nose, he didn't call it draw, did he? He didn't call it draw a lot of your games and we'll be all right.
Win. Yeah. Listen, I think he's been accused of being a vibes manager too much. He's get too much into the feelings of things.
Listen. If this is what it takes to get us like chasing up Man City and fighting them for the title, crack on, mate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Buy a dog, buy a fucking camel if you want. I don't care.
I think we're at the point where Chelsea never really achieved this. Chelsea got to a point where they're the third best team in the land, but they never bridged the gap between Man City and Liverpool. You know,
They've won a Champions League.
they did win in Champions League. You know,
And who's the player that scored the winning goal for him? Where's he playing? Where's he playing now?
He's with us now. He's with us. All right, Spencer's filling us in here. Vibes, feel. It's the feel for something. I have a teenage daughter. All of a sudden, all in of teenage jargon. So Spencer's the man.
Spencer can like link us into the street. He's our link.
No cap from Spencer. I think all coach managers have sort of kinks. Yeah. Rule, I think you're right. Every manager has some kind of bag of tricks, right, to motivate their players.
I mean, Mikel Arteta could release his own, those workout DVDs that used to be big in the 90s, Jane Fonda and that. You could have a Mikel Arteta one that'd just be him on the touchline. Because the man does not sit down a lot. And you remember when we first saw that, we were like, Jesus, is this necessary? It's really... But I'm just like, mate, you finish second, you chase down Man City.
All right, so
do what you got to do.
The motivation from City will be Pep. Pep will be saying to his boys, look at what they're doing over at Arsenal. They are your competitors now. And we're going to have to fight. If we want to retain the league, retain the FA Cup, retain the Champions League, we're going to have to fight tooth and nail against Arsenal.
I wonder how often they speak with them to each other, on a
monthly
basis.
Quite a lot, apparently. Every other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to be I'd love to know how the is it like, haha, you fucked up today, man, you bitch. It's like, yeah, well, you know what I mean? I wonder how it,
Yeah, I know. It would be interesting. All right.
Pep Guardiola, this make no bones about it. He's like Mikel Arteta's kind of mentor from when he was in his playing days at Barcelona. He really, respects this guy, and it seems like that he's come away from that time that it was at Man City with some great knowledge, and some great tutelage, and a good way of not only on the pitch, but like you mentioned, the way that the harmony in this squad, the togetherness,
unity, yeah.
I don't. Sometimes you hear clubs and they have a few groups. They sit at that table. This group always sit at that table. I bet people just walk into the canteen and just sit in the seat that's available and talk whoever's next to them. There's not these cliques and stuff. It's very much a together, very much a unit. And I really hope that I really want our fan base to come back together as one, man. Because
it's never going to happen, Stan.
We could do more damage.
Never going to. You have that loud minority. You're going to have the Twitter 5%, maybe even less than 5%. But they're the vocal ones. They're the ones who are saying, why isn't certain player playing? Why didn't substitutions come in after 50 minutes, 55 minutes?
Yeah, but we talk about that here. We do that here. We talk about substitution problems. We've been on here saying like, why didn't they go in with a better deal? Why are we doing deals where the add-ons are like fucking 200 years time, and you've got to see Bigfoot and get a picture of it before we give another 2 million. We had these anxious discussions. We started out with Tony breaking apart 100 million. Why did we do that? But we've not been on here calling for people's heads. And even if people, I respect people's opinions. I don't expect everyone to have the same opinion as me, but surely we should be in a place now when you look at other teams, and imagine if you're a Sunderland supporter. What have you seen your team? Do you know what I mean? There are people out there that have been supporting teams that have never got to Wembley, never got to a semi-final. Surely we should be able to come together as one. We're in a good place.
Yep. Like I said, we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now. It's been a great journey. And we want to chart Arsenal winning the Premier League, maybe even winning the Champions League. And we'll be here for that. Our discussions have been livelier in the last 4 or 5 years. Since then, when winning cures a lot. When you're winning games, you're not complaining as much about things. You're nitpicking small things. And we're looking at a season where with Declan Rice, with Timber, Havertz, maybe another player or two, we're going to be better again. And it gets harder, right? when you get into second place, there's only one other position you can go to improve. And if we have any kind of a rocky wobble where we get 1 point from 9, the knives are going to come out again. You know it. You know what Arsenal fandom is like. It's going to happen. You know what I mean? Spencer says these managers, type A individuals, hard for them to admit when they're wrong. Managers also have a hard time adjusting what they do. The greatest do. Rule said, we need to beat Man City in every game next season. Definitely we need to start making inroads into the duels that we've had. It used to be we couldn't win a game against the top 6 team. That was 4 or 5 years ago. We've
No.
Can
I disagree?
What?
Can I come in there, right? I always felt that our biggest problem up until late was that we would show up in big games and give a good account of ourselves, either winning or drawing away from home against a big head. Or even if we lost, it wouldn't be like, fucking hell, they're just strolling around. We would give a really good account of ourselves. But then we would go and play a game where, on paper, that old saying, you think, oh yeah, there should be 3 points there. We just totally go in there and fuck it up.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think last season, we managed to get a good, our away form last season was fantastic.
Yeah,
so I think for us now, our next challenge, our next marker that we should be looking at is we should now be looking at getting the better of Man City, being able to play this fortress of a team that's just won the treble and give a good account of ourselves and come away with points playing Man City. That's where our next challenge is.
Yeah. Definitely. Let's not forget there are points in last season we need to improve upon.
But you not see what I'm saying, Ray? We'd play a big team, we'd do really well, we'd play Chelsea and do really well, and we'd play Southampton and we'd lose.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, how is this happening?
Stan, we did that this season. We dropped points against Southampton.
I believe that was
season before.
But I believe that was because of a lack of quality and depth as well. Sharp end of the season, there was a lot of pressure. We had players out and missing. We didn't have enough as a unit, and I'm hopefully that's being addressed now. 4
or 5 years ago, under Arsene Wenger, we were horrible away from home. We have come a long way now to where we had I think we had one of the best records away from home last season. If anything, the biggest issue we had last season was being too open at home and playing too cavalier and getting goals against us at home. That seems so easy to rectify. That seems so easy to work on.
You don't have your center back.
And also, we had mistakes too that cost us.
Alonso?
Yeah, we had a lot of blunders that wound up costing us the league too. Like Rams basically kicking it to us, Southampton. A lot of mistakes in man-on-man situations. Zinchenko getting bullied off the ball. Megalesh not basically turning off the ball here. He was getting Jared Bowen basically scoring on him, Salah scoring on him. So, it's just lack of awareness, lack of focus. I think also it hurt Arsenal towards the end of the season too.
Indeed. If we tell Declan Rice, and I think Declan Rice has that understanding, to stay at home, Declan Rice stay at home games. What I mean is cover the back line in case to stop those mistakes. We have other players who can cook, and there's another younger term, who can cook and go forward. And let Declan Rice holds the keys, and let us cook.
You're trying to get this show to appeal to a younger demographic, aren't you? That's what you're doing.
Trying to open up the circle to the younger segment as well. You know what I mean? Tony, you had your hand up very politely.
you can rectify that without having a high line, having your center backs past the halfway line. You can have the players dropping back to cover. That's why Gabriel would struggle because nobody was there. You put him
Tony,
on an island.
is this new formation to the back? That's it.
Hey Stan, I think these two should get their own show. Like, we should open up a segment where Alonso and Tony talk.
It should just be called, and then you call it These Nuts.
The event FC circle.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Aren't you proud of the gift I gave you this week, Alonso?
What's that?
The video of saying these nuts.
Yeah, that.
He's
That
been
was
throwing you roses. That's
I've just got an image that one day we're going to be doing a show and we're going to see Tony. Alonso won't be here and Tony be talking. And in the background, we'll see Alonso creeping up with a guitar and they'll just hit Tony over their heads.
Tiger and Gunner, it's going to be a great season. Yeah. Listen.
Jeff Jarrett stuff.
It's going to be a great season. I think we're going to win more games, draw less games, and lose less games. You know, it's going to be a good season.
Oh my God.
Tony, you're right. I mean, we have to be a little bit more careful going forward at home. But I see 84 points that we collected at home. We dropped a lot of points, and I see we can clean up in some areas and be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we should be winning more at home.
Yeah.
Can I just say as well? I know a lot of people, me included, going back to the striker thing and Eddie and Balogun. Why can't he be given a chance? There's a part of me that's like, why can't you sit down with a Balogun and say, look, come and have a pre-season with us? Eddie's place isn't secure. No one's place is secure. You could come in and take that place, and once you've taken that place, then who knows where you go from there. But as I said before, our transfers, we're a self-sustaining model. So if there's chat about getting money for Balogun now, I think they're going to go for it. If it's a concrete to offset the sort of deals that we're putting together for Declan Rice, I just hope that if you are going to sell Balogun, then you have either a buyback clause or a sell-on clause, and you're prudent about getting that in there. But
you're always going to leave yourself. Yeah, I agree with you. We are going to have to sell players too. We spent 200 and some million, and I've been saying this. We're going to have to part with a player we like. Maybe I don't want Emile Smith-Rowe to get sold, but it's very possible it could happen. What was I going to say?
You sell a Thomas Partey and a Balogun. Maybe that's 85, 90 million.
Yeah. The other part of it is, as Arsenal fans, we're going to poke at the weakest spot, and we're all going to look at his striker position and say, Nketiah and Jesus may not get us through a whole season. Tony?
I think that selling him this summer would end up being a bigger mistake than Gnabry.
Selling Balogun?
Yep.
Yeah, but the thing is, right? Sometimes though, you have a player that they're good, right, but you can't fit them in where they are right now, and you have to sell them. Do you know what I mean? Look at Salah and De Bruyne from Chelsea. You know they're going to be good, but they can't make an impression into the first team.
We don't have a striker. We have a winger in the striker position.
Yeah, the striking position is a baffling one.
And if you say the same thing about Bobby Firmino, Tony, you'd have a valid point if we had finished the season without the contributions from Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, et al. To pad out the numbers, because this is the way that we play. Do you know what I mean? We're not looking for an Alan Smith.
Yep.
That kind of a player. Do you know what I mean?
The
way that we're playing, if you look at the heat map of Gabriel Jesus, he's all over the fucking show. He's in defence. He pops up on the fucking wings.
Left
he pops
back.
up in the midfield.
Yeah.
I've seen him clearing balls in from defence, for fuck's sake. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just how we roll.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
hey,
you know
Stan,
what? And you know what?
How does
If
he
it's gonna-
do that with strikers? Get
And you
him
know what?
off his
If this
ass.
is going to get us challenging Man City, then I know it's fucking frightening. For me, it's, but I'm like, what the fuck do I know? Look, it's working.
Yeah.
it's got Xhaka's goals too.
You know what was
Yeah.
working was consistency. You had the same players playing a lot of the games. Martinelli, Erdegaard, and Saka playing with a striker. You know, Granit Xhaka chipping in with some goals as well. This season, we're going to have different members and different combinations of members in the lineups. You know, Saka may not play with Martinelli a lot. There could be some switching. Trossard could come in as well. We need to see what Trossard's going to fit in.
It's funny because I know we've all wanted Martinelli to become a striker too, and he's capable of playing that position as well.
Yep.
So yeah, I think what's good about this group is that we could interchange them if they wanted to.
Yep. I think we're going to wind up in about 10 or 15 minutes, unless you all say you want to go longer, but that's fine. Going to ask you as well, did Edu approach the negotiating in a good way? I'm generally happy with how we approached the Declan Rice saga. It didn't turn into a huge saga.
Is he doing that part, though? Or is that the other people?
I'm sure Mikel Arteta, you know, he didn't let Edu drive the car completely. He probably had one hand on the wheel, you know, but you gotta give him props for getting it over the line as well, and the ownership for being involved.
Dick Lick and the little kids see that thing.
Tim Lewis or whoever. Spencer said, as someone who has to do negotiations daily, I was proud of Arsenal not. Yeah, Spencer was proud of Arsenal not creating a position where 120 million was needed to get Rice. You know, and we probably started low, knowing they'd force us to 100.
Here's my answer to your question. You asked the question, do you think that, you know, Eddie did a good job in getting the deal done and have he done it and that? My answer to that is the deal is done. So the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Had we not got it over and we were sat here tonight talking about how Declan Rice was now going to Man City and was pending the medical, then if you ask that question, then there'd probably be loads of speculation and opinions that I could give you. But all of that is moot now because we've got the player.
Yeah, exactly. Agree. Spence said that 20 million could be the difference between 3 players this window versus 4 or 5 with player sales included. Tony?
Still need more depth. Now they make enough money. Now they make enough money off those players.
Balogun should be making statements like, I'm back to Arsenal to cement my place, not moaning, play me or sell me. Yeah.
I'd like to hear that as well. But
if I'm Balogun now,
but also he's obviously backing himself as well.
Yeah, why don't you back yourself at Arsenal, Stan?
That's what it sounds like he's trying to do.
You know? And maybe, like you said, Stan, he is going to get an opportunity in preseason to state his case. And maybe we're going to try and convince him to stay.
But I don't think that's on the cards. As I said, you know, we're a self-sustaining model, and he seems to be, at the moment, one of our assets. You have to think, right, by selling Balogun and you know, Xhaka and a couple of other players, that's about 80, 90 million. Who's the other player that we're looking at? So Partey, for example. Yeah. What that means is Tierney as well. What that means is the 105 that we've laid out for Rice. That means that we've just brought not far off that money back in, which allows us to go again. It offsets what we've just done. It allows us now to project again and look at a Tukumani or a Casado and offer 80 million over a period of X amount of years with add-ons.
Yep.
Do you see what I'm getting at? it allows us to go again.
The fact that we're even talking about Lavia or Tchouaméni speaks
Crazy.
volumes for
It's crazy.
our window's not over yet. It looks like our window's not over yet.
Who knows what could go down? Vlahovic turns up on the last day of the window. Mbappe turns up.
Yeah, Mbappe. Spencer, just hard to see an American owner to sell the future American star in the World Cup 3 years from now. You know what I mean?
It's 1 minute to 12 on the last day of the window, and all of a sudden you get a Fabrizio Romano. Here we go, guys.
Concrete.
It's concrete. Everybody's signed a contract, and they are all feeling very relaxed.
It's feeling very concrete. Jesus had that dog in him. When do we think that Declan will have his medical, roughly, guys? The situation
after
right
his
now.
holiday.
He's on holiday right now, isn't he?
But the deal is done, but it's not done as in the way that they've agreed on the price. Man City aren't coming in with a bid, and I believe that the 100 million West Ham want it paid over 18 months, and Arsenal are saying 4 years. That's what I read. So there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment, but it's as I understand it, the deal was done. So a medical will probably be next week. Look at Kai Havertz, right?
Sure.
He hasn't had his medical yet, but to get that video out, he's on holiday somewhere at a wedding with Jorginho. They flew somebody out there, got him aside for a few moments to put a top on and do a couple of a minute video, and then let him get on with his wedding. He's not had a medical yet.
And the club doctor flew out there as well to have his medical in Spain.
Let him have a cough drop.
Havertz.
Cough.
Yeah. Cough drop. So listen, as Stan said, West Ham want ridiculous payment, pay 100 million within 18 months.
I think it's
three windows. That's horrible. And Arsenal just will not do that probably. 4 years will probably turn into 3 years. You think?
I'm sure they already have a deal when it gets signed if they didn't come closer to what they wanted.
As Stan said, they have to sort out the pace of the payments and installments, how much is going to be paid over the hire purchase of Declan Rice. But the medical will probably be sometime next week. That is true. But we are probably leaving for Germany at the end of next week. So that's something that's got to be done as well. You know,
Mikel Arteta, I've heard that Mikel Arteta wants them to be on board for that.
Those three players.
That game. Yeah. Timber, Rice, and obviously Havertz is done. That's done.
Yeah. So, and Timber is moving along, progressing. The medical for Timber will be Timber's falling. Will be next week as well. I always hear commentary fans say, it's not your money. Why do you care? Well, financial fair play cares. Remove financial fair play, and then we won't care about money anymore. Same people will moan when we can't buy players.
Speaking of that, I just heard just before the show, actually, I was getting out of the shower and they were talking about another charge to Man City, about a 30 million payment.
30 million?
That went in, I think in 2016. Which was allegedly from a sponsor, but it turns out that it was from the owner of the club and that. So sounds like there's still some stuff going on over there. Just talking about financial fair play.
116 charges now.
Yeah.
You know, I had another charge in there.
Just put it on top. We'll get to it in a minute. Just put it on top.
It's like a piece of mail, a piece of postage. Yeah. Oh,
another bill's coming. Put it on top.
You just throw it into this big. There's this room with a big pile of mail.
Yeah, where they can barely shut the door. They put one in there. 3 or 4 people to shut the door. So
it is comical, but we do have to hold the UK government accountable for oversight. You know, on this stuff. The league is just going to be a joke. And if Man City had paid over the odds and blew us out of the water, we'd be feeling a lot worse about it. I look at Balogun and think of Kevin Campbell staying fight at 21 years old, says BX. Stan and his love for Fabi Orr.
Teabag.
Teabag. Well, his unveiling was at Kepa's wedding. Yeah. I may just have to overpay you for a ticket to see our new players in Jersey. That's BX is getting motivated to go see it. We go to Germany July 13th. So, yeah.
So what is a pre-season schedule? Is it how many games in Germany? Then they go to the States, right?
One game against Nuremberg, which I sort of called it earlier a few weeks ago because that's what we did last season.
Then we have some behind doors while we were there too.
So the game is we play Nuremberg on the 13th of July. So they'll probably want to be there about 5 or 6 days before the game, so probably the end of next
weekend. Don't we usually
weekend.
play somebody else though behind closed doors?
No, we just played Nuremberg last season. And then we go to America for the remaining games. Arsenal have control in that instance for payment structure. We are the only ones offering 105 million. West Ham would have to negotiate or risk losing the player for nothing. Yeah, I've seen some West Ham fans saying, we'll just have the player back if you don't pay up within 18 months. I think that's ridiculous that Sullivan is doing that. My buddies in Germany who went to that preseason game last year. So, yeah, let's start.
As well, somebody asked earlier on if I was going to be going to any of the games in the States. I live in Canada, but I'm not going to be going. I wanted to, but it's been a difficult year work-wise this year with the writer strike and having to pivot and change professions and that. So I don't think I'll be making the journey, unfortunately. Maybe next year if they go to America.
All right, the wheels are going to come down. We're going to be landing this thing pretty soon. Rule said, I'm thinking Havertz will be our best signing. Rice had never played in Arteta's system or anything similar. Timber, more tactical, suited for our Arteta system. I would maybe disagree respectfully. I think Havertz may be the most difficult one to unlock, if I'm being honest. I think he could be a difficult one to unlock. Fans are going to look at his language style and think he's a little bit lazy. That's just my take on it. I might actually feel that way about him as well. We've seen some of the things that he's done at Chelsea, missed fresh air shots,
I'm just not hearing Chelsea people say like, oh no, he's going to make them stronger. Gutted he's going to Arsenal. I've not heard anyone do that, but I have heard people say that, he goes missing a lot sometimes in games. That seems to be that opinion. I don't know that to be true. Who knows what we can get out of him? I give him a fair start when he puts on the shirt. I was dubious about Jorginho. He won me over. I was dubious about Danny Welbeck. I was gutted when he bought Danny Welbeck from Man United, but he won me over. Maybe he will. I hope he does. And we're paying good money for this guy. 65 and a half or 65.7, something like that.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of dough.
Yep.
But he's only 24. He's only young.
Chelsea went from third place then to 12th. 30 points. A drop off at 30 points. Chelsea struggled big time. And it's not all on Havertz, He was in a bad environment probably.
Doesn't the UK need to sort out their own problem they created and get Chelsea's owner out of there? They totally shit the bed on getting an owner.
Todd Bowley.
No, the English did it. They took the team over. Why?
Yeah, that's right. Todd Bowley.
They had control.
Green Acres, what they're called.
They picked him.
And I think
the UK picked him, right?
Pochettino, I think Pochettino can do a decent job at Chelsea, but they're not going to be better than 8th place.
I would. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just telling Tony.
I would say that we've been talking about Havertz, and to the eye test, he looked like he was struggling at Chelsea. Look at another player that they've just recently sold to Man United, Mason Mount. I'm sorry, but I think that Mason Mount is a very decent player. He may have had a bit start season last season because he wanted to get his starts, but it was a bad
You
environment.
don't think he's good?
No, I think he's a very good
No, he
player.
thinks he's good.
I think
Who will have the better season?
I think he's a very good player, and I think he will shine when he goes to his next team. And you can see that, and so you can see a similar thing, with Havertz, with a change of environment, being used in a different system.
Yeah.
When he was in Germany, he had some good numbers and was rated as a very high player that was going to make it big on the scene. But it's a big gamble. We paid a lot of money. It is what it is. But as I said earlier, market dictates the price.
Yeah, it does dictate. There was some discussion that Mount is better than Havertz, but we will see how that goes this season. I told Ryan,
doesn't he play the same position that he was playing at Chelsea for Germany as well? Don't they play him in that position in the international? That may change, right? Because look at now, if you look at Xhaka, they've started using him in a similar way in his international team because he's so successful he's been successful at Arsenal. Yeah. So you may see a similar retooling with Kai Havertz. If he comes and he's used in a different way and is successful, it may trickle up to his international position as well.
Mm-hmm. Most players that move to Chelsea have been bad, to be honest, said Spencer. And again, it's the fee that bothers me. Listen, I know somebody said we shouldn't care about the price, but it's kind of what we do. We talk about it. We compare this player to that player and the requisite price difference of the fee. And, you try to look for value out there, Tony. You know what I mean?
Well, to me, those other top teams like City, they'll either look for a player that's contract is running out, sign a pre-deal with them, or they'll go out there and pay the release clause fee. And you don't see us doing any business before the window starts.
Yep. All right. I think
I think 200 million is insane when you don't have the depth. Because we can't be like last year. Gabriel can't play 4,000 minutes. Saka can't play 3,700 minutes.
Yeah. I just think you're going to look at our subs bench and it's going to look a lot better than it did last season. And that's raising the depth, the level of quality in the squad.
Well, pretty much fucking anyone look better, right?
Yeah. All right. Listen, Alonso, you haven't been speaking for a while there, so I want to give you a chance to give me your final thoughts and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, for a long time we've waited until the deadline day to get our transfers over, but I think the past couple of years we kind of narrowed our target down and had some few surprises. The Havertz link kind of caught me off guard, and another one was Timber. So I think, Arteta values talent outside the league also. So, I'm very happy about how we got both of them. And Rice, was a long-term target of ours. And as a fan, I struggle sometimes to know whether or not, Edu and or Garlic are paying with our emotions whenever we get our targets and we won't sign them or we won't pay enough the first time around. So, I get very frustrated with that. But at the end of the day, Edu worked his red wine magic and barbecue magic, and we're able to get a Rice. So fair play to him. I think that these signings are an improvement. They're going to push our current squad to the levels of competition and where it's probably used to. But I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm excited that they got him before the preseason starts. So what's what happens with the guys that are going to leave? Um, so yeah, I'm very very excited about the prospect of us having a great team.
Yeah, be excited, right? And that's what we were saying a few years ago, but now I think we can say it with some chest. There you go. Another one of those sayings. We'll give Tony the final word. So, Stan, what have you got?
No, I mean, so far in this transfer window, I get it. You know that because of the Declan Rice thing, there was a lot of anxiety. I was anxious, and as I say, you know, I want to repeat it. Maybe we've paid more for Declan Rice than what he's worth.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I'm not saying he's a bad player. However, it was so important that Arsenal made some kind of a statement and was able to fend off a big pit bull that comes in at the last minute and trying to take the carcass away from you. That you're the one that's hunted it down and it comes in and it's trying to take it away. Maybe I should have said lion instead of a pit bull, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I like that one. I like the analogy. Yeah.
And
Being
we
attacked
managed,
by a pit bull hurts.
and we managed to do that. And I'm what this does,
Timber saw.
say, what this does in the future, in the future when we're going to talk to players, they will remember that. They'll think, fucking hell, Declan Rice had a chance of going to City, but he sat down and talked to Arsenal. Maybe I should listen. It gives us a lot of credibility moving forward. So, you know, if all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and he has his medical and he's unveiled, fantastic work. Fantastic work.
Yeah. I've been singing that Timber song as well, the Pitbull one. So it's all good, Stan, if that's what you're in mind with Pitbull.
No, I don't know. I've heard someone talk about some artist called Pitbull, but again, I'm not in touch with the streets. I don't even know who he is. So.
No, I like the analogy. We held on to the carcass. We were not being pushed around. You know,
Pitbull was over about 15 years ago. So
maybe the better analogy is that we were the line that hunted it down, and then out of the night, the hyenas came from Manchester to try and pick off the carcass. As hyenas
we fought them off. We fought. You know, some of the things Pep does makes me really not like him. The way he was goading the Liverpool players on the sideline when they were beating Liverpool at home. He's really a little bit of a hideous person at sometimes as well. Great manager, but not a great character. Anyway, we'll get out of here. Tony, take us away.
Well, 200 million so far. Need to
Boo.
more than that. I hope we don't sell our only striker. I really don't want to see him go.
Who's
you know
that?
who our only. Balogun. Come on, Eddie's not
Okay.
a striker.
Only striker, right? Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you said starter.
No, I'm said striker because probably Lord Bettner scored more goals than Eddie ever will first. So no.
All right. Is that it?
Good enough, Ray.
Long pauses. It's Pitbull. Still think we're too short a true challenger for Saka. Okay, listen, we held on to the carcass. We got Declan Rice. We didn't let the Wolves.
I do have one thing to say, Race.
Yep.
Ray. It's got to be more than a 2-horse race this year.
Right.
Right, there's Chelsea.
No.
I think there's levels. As Gary would say, there's levels to this. There's levels to this, and I don't think Man United. I don't think Man United or Newcastle can sustain it. You know what I mean? But listen, if you've been watching this live or on playback, we do appreciate all of you being here. Slap a like, subscribe
Look
if
at
you're
the
new
squad
around
they
here.
finished in third with, right?
What?
So look at the squad they had, where they finished without a very good squad last year. They finished third.
What? Oh, no,
Man United.
Newcastle.
Newcastle came fourth.
Did I slip to fourth? Okay.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. While Tony's checking if Newcastle finished fourth, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Alonso. Thank you, Tony. Declan Rice in the camp. Life is good. Take care, everybody.